Hello friends. Welcome to the Muse fanfiction. How are you all? So in this video, we will see what if Naruto had the demonic chakra of the greatest demon lord. But before we start, if you want more amazing stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, if possible, share this video with your friends. Now without wasting any more time, let's begin the story. If there ever was a clash of the titans, it was in Konoha. For 7 days and 7 nights a demon laid siege on the walls of the village hidden in the leaves. Kyubi, the Terror King himself, attacked Konoha after rising from the depths of Makai with his 8 clansmen, who each went to attack a portion of the shinobi-infested world. Under his hellfire, the vast population of Konoha was slain and the dwindling shinobi that were left took up arms against the juggernaut of the demon, and even with their combined forces nothing could stop his terrorizing raids. However, that all stopped when the Yondaime, himself, rode in on his trusted summon Gamabunta, the King Toad. Even though he was the only man who had ever been considered an equal to the fabled Professor Sandame by his fellow shinobi, he could not defeat this demon. Their battle shook the land, and the vast forest surrounding the once lush land was now either in flames from Kyubi's hell torrents or charred after fire was extinguished by Gamabunta. Finally, on the 7th day, after much blood, sweat, and tears, the Yondaime caved into his darkest fear, attaching the very soul of the fox to the innocent soul of a child. Deep inside, Yondaime knew that Konoha wouldn't respect his wishes, much like Orochimaru didn't honor Sarutobi's wish from him to Hokage rather than the former student, and blame the innocent child for the loss in this battle. Truly, this child was being punished more than Kyubi himself, so Yondaime altered the seal. There was no true way to kill that which is already dead, so Yondaime figured a way to send Kyubi back from which it came, but not before leaving something precious to him. All the chakra of a village or even the world was going to be locked within this child, as some sort of divine intervention from karma. Kyubi was going to live an afterlife tortured by those he had tortured while in power, and this child was going to live a tortured life for holding his demonic essence from the said demon lord. However, it was for a good cause, because without his chakra the Kyubi couldn't return to the human world, or at least not anytime soon. It was better than the alternative, Yondaime concluded as he finished this new seal. At least the child would be able to protect himself if the villagers ever felt too out of line, and Kyubi would get what he so rightfully deserved in the end. And with those thoughts, Yondaime charged with child in hand and sealed the world's greatest menace into a child. 7 years later, he had that dream again. Just like before, Naruto relived the last thoughts of the man who had sealed him with his cursed blessing. Bittersweet, really, because without the man's kindness he wouldn't be here right now after a villager lost himself to his hatred and attacked him disguised as the old man. It had all started when he had come home after being attacked again in the grocery store, and after returning to his rundown apartment after paying double the price for spoiled goods, Naruto noticed his door was unlocked. So hiding his food, he waited for the man to jump out. Thinking, it'll all be over soon, and if I don't move maybe he'll leave my food alone thinking I'm dead. But when the door squeaked open, Naruto saw only his most trusted person on this planet, Sandame Sarutobi. After some small chit-chat, Naruto found something was off, and that's when the imposter sprung his trap, and in one quick motion, Naruto's neck was slit and all he heard was, "You deserve this," before he fell back. However, death never came, nor did the cold ground, for as soon as Naruto started to topple backward, something snapped inside of him. More precisely, the protectorate seal around Kyubi's pent-up chakra slipped to save his life, and now before the world stood the sole proprietor of the Biju King Kyubi chakra. It wasn't long before Anbu showed up, albeit late as hell after discovering the location of the chakra spike, but they arrived at the scene of the attempted murder only to see Naruto standing over a sniveling man. Even with the mass killing intent radiating off his body, the child stood complete calm, and totally curious of what was happening. Within the hour, the man was sent to the psychiatric ward to be analyzed for any mental affliction, before being prosecuted for attempted murder, even with most of Konoha going against his case, stating something along the lines of, he was probably attacked, but with Sarutobi's urging threatening, he was prosecuted and found guilty but was released under the claims of being mentally insane. Kyubi's, or rather Naruto chakra, broke the man's psyche, and he was now spending the rest of his days in a padded white room, replaying the shock of having the equivalent of a Holocaust victim's hatred for his torments going off in his mind after being multiplied 1,000 times over. Well, revenge is a dish best served cold, they always said, and this guy was going to spend his whole life over this cold heaping of hate in front of him. But even with that problem solved, the aftermath from it sprouted more problems and more grievous than the last. What will Naruto do now that he had access to the greatest source of power on this planet, and how would the villagers react now that he held the power of their most hated foe? And the most disturbing of all was, would he help the village that constantly held a knife to his throat and be their loyal protector, or would he turn his back on the village that shunned him like Orochimaru did years before? Sandaime found himself in the proverbial pickle and now had to make a choice. Either let Naruto be and watch the boy struggle from afar before he either killed himself and the village from the immense backlash that Kyubi's chakra would have sent out when released, or watch him turn his back on the village before swearing annihilation on all of its inhabitants. Therefore, Sandaime made a third choice and broke his own oath to never train another student. So Sandaime gathered his almost infinite resources and got the boy a well-secure home and began teaching him basic chakra control. It wasn't long after that did the, for lack of better term, dreams start. It was like watching a movie and remembering parts you have never seen. They looked so familiar, and yet Naruto had no memory of ever being in the place he saw, which usually was centered on a land with red skies and large, old Japanese castles. After telling the Sarutobi of his dreams, the man immediately told him to tell no one else, thinking of the horrors that the villagers would do to the child if they found out he could remember what Kyubi had done while still breathing. Standing by his oath, Naruto trained vigorously until his 7th birthday, when he convinced the Hokage to let him become a shinobi. It was both a joyous and painful thing for the elder man, because Naruto would be swearing his loyalty to this village, but then he was reminded of his other apprentice. Orochimaru was once loyal, but power soon corrupted him and he turned his back on the village, so the question was, would Naruto do the same? Shaking his fears away, Sarutobi remembered it was Naruto's choice and holding him back would only hurt the boy's trust in him. So the Sandaime let Naruto join. So this is where Naruto found himself after his little daydream on the past few years, in a classroom with people he had only met the day prior. His training with the Hokage forced the lonely boy to grow up fast, and behind his cheery attitude to throw the villagers off their tracks and show them that they could break him, was a boy who analyzes every situation as if his life depended on it. So here he finds himself going over his mental notes he had taken on everyone around him. First was the pink-haired girl who was in front of him. Haruno Sakura, preteen girl with preteen fantasies on the village heartthrob. After only one day, Naruto made a conclusion about her: stay away. Not that the girl was ugly or anything, on the contrary, she was quite cute and would be a beauty one day, but her helpless infatuation with a certain boy would only slow him down. Aside from her open love life, Sakura seemed like she would make an excellent kunoichi if she paid more attention to her training than boys. But then again, she was only preteen girl-like. Yamanaka Ino, the second person who caught his eye in the class, blonde like him, the pretty girl would be simply stunning like Sakura, but she also fell under the category of do not pursue, seeing as she too was smitten by a certain male. Unlike her friend, who had kind eyes, Ino had the calculating brain like all the seers in her family of psychic shinobi. From his intel from the Sandaime, Ino may very well be the strongest kunoichi of her generation at the time, and the look in her eyes didn't dissuade that notion. Moving on, Naruto's eyes fell on the last female of his class, Hyuga Hinata. The cute girl was pitifully shy, but under her shaking voice and uncertain eyes was that of a true beauty like the other kunoichi noted before, and being the heir to the Hyuga household and fearsome Byakugan, it was ironic that she was shy and uncertain unlike her prideful clansmen. It was that trait that made her stand out, and from what Naruto discovered from previous meeting with the Hyuga household, that the Smug clan was by far some of the most intolerable people he had ever met. Hinata was different though. She didn't have her all-seeing eyes on preteen boys like the other girls, but instead they were on the ground. Given her heritage, she could be the strongest academy student if she would come out of her shell a little, and maybe even strongest genin given her parentage, but fate was cruel. Moving his eyes from the girl beside him, Naruto looked on to the male population of the class, starting with the sleeping child beside him. Nara Shikamaru was a lazy bum at first glance, but as Naruto observed him longer, he noticed that the true reason he came off like that was because he was just not motivated to pursue this career. The most ironic part about it was that underneath the lazy cover was a true shinobi genius just waiting to come out, but too bad if he was too lazy to dig it out. Moving on to the slightly larger child beside him, Naruto rested his gaze on Akamichi Choji. The class fat ass was far from the glutton he made himself out to be, Sorta. He was an Akamichi, and with that came the burden of being larger than everyone else, but with it came his true advantage, size. Within him came the potential to be the strongest genin, physically, in the whole class, and if he ever grew over his self-conscious problems he would truly be a deadly force. Looking up, Naruto's gaze landed on the class animal lover, Inuzuka Kiba. The class clown and animal lover was a true beast on the inside, and his taijutsu showed it. During the classroom spar, he crushed a no-name kid within seconds using his clan's techniques and gloated about it afterward, reducing the boy to tears. His pride would be his downfall, but if he survived that encounter, Kiba would become a true shinobi down to the core, and with his loss of pride, he would be a valuable asset to the village. Next was Aburame Shino, quiet as a mouse, but had an aura of the strong silent type. He was quiet, conserved, and calculating like most trained shinobi, and could be a bingo book candidate in time. But his only downfall was his isolation, and other than that there was not much Naruto could say about him. Moving his gaze to the last person on his list of standout faces, was the village tragedy story and heartthrob Uchiha Sasuke. Not only was he the only heir to the Sharingan in the village, but he was also far more advanced than an academy student should be, example being able to use a Gukakyu, Grand Fireball, during a ninjutsu exam, scorching the target and most of the wood around it. He was cocky, but Naruto had to give it to him. He had been in the first place seat so long that he could be, but Naruto was here to change that. Uchiha Sasuke just made a rival, and his name was Uzumaki Naruto, called Amino Iruka as he called rolled. The man's expression changed to one of hatred as he called the name, but Naruto wasn't affected. He had far better things to do than worry about those who had nothing but hate for him. Here was the boy's nonchalant reply as class started. Uzumaki Naruto, called Amino Iruka as he called rolled. The man's expression changed to one of hatred as he called the name, but Naruto wasn't affected. He had far better things to do than worry about those who had nothing but hate for him. Here was the boy's nonchalant reply as class started. Welcome to my life, Chapter 2, Behind the Smiling Mask? Naruto sat in the back of the classroom out of habit and because the elevated view provided the best spot to collect intel, not only from his sensei but from his classmates as well. Even before he got settled in, the boy's danger sense, which he had grown over the years to test a person's tolerance level for him, was going off a mile a minute. Smoothing the invisible creases in his deep blue pants, Naruto felt his black shirt growing incredibly hot under the teacher's gaze. Shifting his blue vest that was over his black shirt, Naruto tried to play off his nervousness to the unbearable imaginary heat. The class rolled on like usual, and Uzumaki found himself victim to Iruka's deep resentment. Apparently the young man had lost his parents to the Kyubi attack, leaving him orphaned. The young Chunin was a bit more than bitter that Naruto, or more exactly, the Kyubi vessel, was favored by the Hokage himself rather than left out in the cold like all the other orphans. Throughout most of the dry history lesson, Iruka made periodic attacks at Naruto's intellect with questions far above an academy student's level. The class, who was usually asleep by now, was fully aware of the battle of wills going on between the new kid and their sensei. After answering a particularly difficult question, Naruto silently thanked Sandame for pounding into his head that this was the age of espionage warfare and information was the sharpest sword. Iruka was stumped after a mental game of cat and mouse, so the older man decided that he would just quit trying to defeat the child mentally and go onto the physical level, because there hadn't been anyone in the last half-decade that was this well-informed in the mind and gifted on the battlefield. So after filing the children out of the class, Iruka made his way down to the training patch and started the exercises. It was simple. The children would work on the basics and Iruka, as their sensei, would point out their mistakes if any. However, the one child that he wanted to humiliate proved to be a prodigy in the works. Even though Naruto studied under the Hokage, in both chakra control and all the information a child could possibly need in shinobi life, Naruto was never taught anything that he could physically use in combat. Maybe because of the deep guilt that Sarutobi had buried in his heart over his estranged pupil, or if the older man didn't want to tempt Naruto to follow the said student's fall from favor, but all the Sandame armed Naruto with was a quick wit and understanding of chakra, and from there, it was up to Naruto. So needless to say that Naruto was not the sharpest shot with a kunai, unlike the Uchiha prodigy. Iruka wasted no time to point out Naruto's mistakes in a rather loud manner. After a bit of teasing at the blonde's expense, Naruto corrected his hold on the kunai and within a few tries, His accuracy was steadily catching up with the class star. Taijutsu wasn't any better than accuracy training. His stance was poor, and compared to the prowess of the more gifted students, Kiba, Sasuke, Shino, and Choji, Naruto's abilities weren't nearly up to par. This was painfully made apparent to Naruto when the Akamichi male almost pounded Naruto's head into the hard earth with his Bubenbaika no Jutsu, partial multi-size, fist. For the duration of the fight, Naruto was either using his speed advantage to land sloppy blows to the larger boy, or use his agility to dodge the earth-moving punches. Either way, Naruto couldn't win the fight, only to hope for a draw at best. Watching the blonde, Iruka couldn't help but feel a little bit guilty. He had pitted the boy against a student who had a distinct advantage. Unlike Choji, Sasuke, Kiba, Shino, or any other student for that matter, Naruto did not have parents, or in one case a high-class scroll, to teach him the finer points taijutsu. Naruto instead stopped dodging and let out a breath, as he was already formulating a plan. Old man always said that the chain is only as strong as its weakest link, and right now I have two. The accuracy can be solved with more practice, but the taijutsu will need some guidance. But who will teach me? Old man is out, and besides him I really don't have any other options. I could try to, but before Naruto's mind could pull together a plan, Iruka decided to end today's lesson with a ninjutsu test. Since Sasuke was last the day before, it was Naruto's turn to go first. Blinking in surprise as Naruto's thoughts focused on the task at hand, the boy walked toward the stationary training logs that had been battered by Choji, slashed by Kiba, turned to sawdust by Shino courtesy of the Kakaichu insects, and burnt to a crisp by the Uchiha savior, of course. Walking up to a less battered post, Naruto could hear the other students in the background. Ignoring the other students' whispers, Naruto focused his chakra into the only gift that he had received in his life. A chakra pentacle used by his father as a good luck charm was the only thing that Naruto received out of an act of kindness. Sandame had been the one to give the gift, was also left with the burden and responsibility of telling the boy the truth. The truth that he was the son of the late Yondaime. Unlike the Sarutobi head's prediction, Naruto didn't go on a bloody rampage and kill countless Konoha citizens for their acts against him, but instead the boy thanked him for not keeping the truth from him. It appeared as though the incident had brought more than just a physical change to the child. Naruto had mentally matured for more than any child his age as well. To him, if this village meant enough to his father for him to give his only born son for it protection, then that was more than enough for him to try and follow in the same footsteps. So now Naruto stood before his classmates holding the five-pointed amulet, focusing his chakra into it. Poising his arm forwards, Naruto said aloud, "I will only say this once, so pay attention. This is my Charka Shaku, Chakra Weaver." And with that a long extension of Charka shot out from each of the 5 points on the pentacle. 1. Chakra Shaku. Degeki, Chakra Weaver. Strike, Naruto said as he dashed towards the wooden post. The wisps of chakra that formed from around the pentacle's point closed around Naruto's clenched fist before he made contact with the wood. The log's top was ripped from the ground by the punch that had left the bottom in a perfect flat edge. As the log flew backwards, Naruto gathered his chakra towards the center of the Chakra Shaku before saying, 2. Chakra Shaku. Tama. Chakra Weaver. Shot. The built-up chakra released in a solid burst, flying straight through the log before releasing a shockwave that literally broke down the larger portion of the log before firing it back at Naruto. The children surrounding Naruto watched in awe and shock as the new kid's jutsu just destroyed a 200-pound training post. The most affected was none other than Uchiha Sasuke himself. How does he just come up and pass me like that? I'm an Uchiha, Konoha's elite, the strongest. How is he so much like? But before Sasuke could finish his thoughts, they were cut off by the sound of Naruto being bombarded by the shrapnel from the destroyed log. Iruka was about to jump in and protect Naruto, but it seemed that the younger boy already had it covered. Letting the compressed chakra in the center of his Chakra Shaku flow outward, Naruto redistributed his energies throughout the pentacle. Linking the edges of his chakra beams, Naruto spread the chakra in a thick sheet across the connected pentagon. Chakra Shaku. Tate, Chakra Weaver. Shield, was all Naruto said as the pieces of wood collided with the shield before being disintegrated by the jutsu. Dropping his throbbing hand, Naruto smirked as he looked at the Uchiha. It was worth it, knocking that arrogant smile off his face. Naruto thought to himself as he bit back the urge to hold his chakra-burned arm. The three moves, each inspired by Konoha's three Sannin, Chakra Shaku. Degeki was from Sandame's stories of Tsunade and her monstrous strength, and after hearing how much the abilities help or hurt them, Naruto knew that he had to make his own version. The Chakra Shaku. Tate was inspired by Jiraiya and his uncanny ability to make his hair into a living shield, and after being at the receiving end of the villagers' mistreatment, Naruto figured it would be wise to develop a defensive jutsu. Last, the Chakra Shaku. Tama was inspired by the last Sannin, Orochimaru. Even though he is Konoha's greatest villain, Uchiha Itachi being a close second, he was by far the greatest ninjutsu user the village had ever seen. For instance, his Seneashu, Hidden Shadow Snake Hands, had killed masses of shinobi, both of Konoha and other villages, without them coming within 3 meters of his body. So why have the idea of leaving a superior ranged jutsu out of your arsenal just because it reminds you of your enemy? But these techniques didn't come without a price, and seeing as Naruto was nowhere near the skill level of any of the three, he paid a steep price. When used back to back, they channeled so much chakra through Naruto's arm that he wouldn't be able to use the arm again until the ruptured tenketsu healed, which was normally a day or so thanks to the regenerative powers Kyubi's chakra had left him with. Walking right past the Uchiha, and making sure to keep his tender arm as still as possible, Naruto met eyes with him for a slip second to tell him that the bet was on, before joining back with the class without waiting for his reply. Needless to say, that infuriated Sasuke, along with his groupies, and just made Naruto somewhat of a hero to the male population of the class. Now Naruto went from being to the new kid, to being the cool jutsu kid. Therefore, for the rest of the class he was pestered with questions like, "Can you teach me?" "No," was the answer he gave each time, and like all the others they left him labeling the boy as an ass. So the class fell back into a normal atmosphere, sorta. Now that Sasuke was glaring daggers at Naruto, instantly making him evil incarnate in the majority of the female class book, and as for the boys, only those who didn't care about being a ninja, or those who just didn't find his abilities a threat to them, tolerated the boy. The rest just didn't want anything to do with him after he wouldn't let them in on his jutsu. Class ended without anyone attacking Naruto out of anger, and Iruka held Naruto back as the class left. The ones Naruto labeled his tolerables lifted an eyebrow to Naruto before leaving. Turning to face Iruka, Naruto prepared himself for a verbal assault on where he learned the jutsu, or that they had there on him, the demon spawn. But to his surprise, Iruka simply bowed, before saying, "I'd like to apologize for my behavior earlier. Even though Hokage-sama had told the village there was no reason to fear you, but sometimes it takes falling on your face to see what's right in front of you." Looking up, Iruka could make out a little behind Naruto's usual happy mask and see the shock on the lonely boy. The world had dealt a harder blow to the boy in front of him than himself. Seeing as Iruka had known his parents for a while and was just ignored by the villager, but Naruto never met either of his parents and was known as Konoha's demon. Needless to say that Naruto was shocked, but he hid it behind his smiling mask. Iruka could see small segments of the boy who put on a face for the village, and felt even worse. Therefore, doing what he always did when he was feeling down, he decided to go for ramen. Inviting Naruto to come with him, Iruka didn't expect Naruto hastily reply. "Of course, Iruka-sensei," the boy yelled, dropping his mask, but with as quick as it fell it was back in place, and the only proof that it even fell it was the red tinge on Naruto's cheeks. Following Iruka out of the class, Naruto couldn't help but feel the villagers' eyes on him, but he persevered. Arriving at the ramen stand, Naruto wasted no time in robbing Iruka on his weekly pay. Grimacing at his growing financial problems, Iruka tried to make some small talk to take his mind off of the thought of bread and water for a week. "So Naruto, how did you get so good at ninjutsu? Come to think of it, you did use hand seals to activate your jutsu. How did you do that?" Iruka asked, but immediately regretted it when he saw Naruto's expression change. "So he didn't want to be my friend after all," Naruto thought sadly as his eyes drooped. Looking in retrospect, Iruka was mentally handing his ass to himself, when Naruto abruptly turned his gaze to the man. All thoughts of comforting his estranged student vanished from his eyes under the boy's gaze. It was like fire burning, all-consuming, and eventually the boy's eyes smothered Iruka under its anger. Only when Iruka felt the full, crushing weight of his mistake was when Naruto decided to leave. Naruto, who had been forced to run for his life over the years that he grew up, had developed a sixth sense. It, or rather his chakra, flooded the area, keeping a constant check of the surrounds and alerted Naruto if anything, other chakra presences and killing intent, enter the area. Combine it with his anger and the effect was increased tenfold. And for once the villagers or self-righteous shinobi didn't bother Naruto, because of one frightening fact. Kyubi's or rather Naruto chakra was boiling over and spilling over into the surrounding area. The usual sedated presence of his chakra was almost lashing out on the surroundings as if it were trying to let out some of the anger raging inside its host. Walking the dank alleys of Konoha to avoid hurting any of the citizens of the village and reaffirming their belief that he was the demon seed, Naruto grew increasingly irritated at the presence following him. Thinking the mystery man was Iruka, Naruto lashed out with his chakra shaku, not caring that his arm was screaming bloody murder as his chakra shot through it. Loading a powerful chakra shaku Tama that was aimed slightly to the side so that it would just scare Iruka off rather than obliterate his body. However, to his surprise when Naruto made eye contact with Iruka, it wasn't Iruka at all. For that matter, it wasn't a man at all. Before him stood the timid Hyuga Hinata who like always had her eyes on the ground. Calming his nerves, Naruto disassembled his chakra shaku and lowered his arm. Clutching the throbbing arm, Naruto mentally berated himself while holding the demonic chakra at bay. Last thing I need is the Hyuga in my ass for harming their heir, Naruto told himself while thinking of the consequences of Hinata seeing Kyubi's imprisoned chakra. Hinata took a few hesitant steps to the wounded boy, hoping to soothe him and maybe convince him to help her. She was weak, that much she admitted to herself, but she was tired of hearing it from her family. She was tired of seeing the disappointment in her father's eyes and she was tired of seeing herself alone. Not stopping when Naruto's piercing, cat-like gaze met hers or when the feral growl he let out as a warning for her to stop. Hinata slowly reached into her pouch and, careful not to make any sudden movements, pulled out the healing salve. Specifically made by the Hyuga clan, the salve could heal ruptured tenketsu at a remarkable pace, which was needed because more often than not, an advanced Juken technique would almost destroy the chakra holes beyond human repair. Rubbing the cream onto the pained skin, Hinata felt Naruto calm down while the cool goo did its work. Uttering a thanks, Naruto quickly backed away and was about to leave when he heard Hinata's voice. "Wait," the girl said, trying her best not to stutter. Standing straight and tall, she looked into Naruto's curious eyes before speaking. "I'm Hyuga Hinata, heir to the Hyuga clan." Naruto simply nodded and was about to take his leave when he was stopped again. "And I wanted to know if you would," and thinking that it would be just like before, Naruto was about to snap when he heard Hinata finish. "If you'd be my friend," and with that, the shy Hinata's words were out in the open and a confused Naruto was left in front of them. The anger seemingly vanished and looked into the girl's eyes. Watching her eep and turn her gaze was all the confirmation Naruto needed to know that her offer was genuine. It baffled Naruto to think that the Hyuga heir wanted him as a friend, but after seeing the look in her eye, Naruto's soul instantly connected with hers. She knew the pains of being ostracized, because of her birth. Unlike him though, she was expected to be the greatest the village had to offer while he was expected to betray them in a cold, demonic fury. They both failed to realize that expectation and were persecuted for it, and it was at that moment that Naruto made the connection, and with that sudden epiphany Naruto thought, maybe having a friend is better after all. Naruto was about to tell Hinata of his decision, when the long silence became too much for the girl and, with shimmering eyes, she was about to make a break for it when Naruto said, "I guess having a friend won't be too bad." Looking up, Hinata saw past the bad sarcasm and saw behind the smiling mask that Naruto put on for the sake of the village. Looking at the softly smiling boy, she smiled too, and that was the start of a lifelong friendship. Read, review, and repeat author's notes. Hey, thanks for reviewing the last chapter. The feedback I got was good and I only hope it will get better. Aside from the reviews, I just want to say, for those Naru, Hina fan, don't get too happy. This sense won't automatically make this a Naru, Hina fic. Even though I am a Naru, Hina lover and am leaning that way, the overflow of crappy Naru, Hina fics are making distance myself from the pairing. If they will get together, it won't be over the cliched training trip seeing past winking face. I heard somewhere if you can't laugh at yourself you aren't really living, so yeah, it will be noted though they are going to be lifelong friends, and if they don't hook up Hinata will take up a sister role with Naruto. Also please no reviews on pairings please, I want to make that decision by myself and not be pressured into a decision. Jutsu, Technique Lobe. I decided to put this up for two reasons. 1. To help me remember all of Naruto and Company's moves, and 2. To help anyone who don't really understand the effects of a jutsu. Chakra Shaku, Chakra Weaver. The starting phase to a majority of Naruto's jutsu. It is the basic square for his arsenal. It was created for two reasons. 1. Because the Sharingan can't copy it, and 2. Because Naruto's extensive chakra growth makes it hard for him to mold his chakra into small spaces, jutsu, so this will help him actively mold his chakra so he can gain the control to use conventional jutsu. Chakra Shaku. Degeki, Chakra Weaver. Strike. A variant of the Chakra Shaku inspired by Tsunade, and by extension of manga series Chad from Bleach. Like stated above. A display of awesome strength that is exceptional for a child, but doesn't have the sheer destructive force of the legendary healer, yet. Chakra Shaku. Tate, Chakra Weaver. Shield. A variant of the Chakra Shaku inspired by the perverted hermit himself, Jiraiya, and by extension Inoue from Bleach. A defensive technique that focused chakra around the 5 pentacle points of the Chakra Shaku before spreading even thought the weaver to make powerful shield. Noted it's not impenetrable, yet. Chakra Shaku. Tama, Chakra Weaver. Shot. A variant of the Chakra Shaku inspired by the last Sannin Orochimaru, and by extension various hollows from Bleach, and is the most versatile to date. Usually used as a long-range jutsu, but will looked into further later. It's been 5 years, Naruto thought to himself while he sparred with Hinata. Time sure has flown, the boy thought to himself while weaving through Hinata's deadly and accurate Juken, gentle fist, strikes. Looking at the determined look on the girl's face, Naruto couldn't help but let his mind wander. Funny how 5 years ago, Hinata was too scared to even think about having that type of look on her face, Naruto said to himself while holding back a laugh, which came out more like a sort of strangled chuckle, which in turn only served to deepen the scold-like look on the girl's face, causing her to redouble her efforts. Much had changed in the 5 years after the fateful night that Naruto made his first friend, and as cliched as it sounds, Naruto's life seemed to brighten from that point on. Even with all the drama he went through inside and outside of the academy, ignoring both the ignorant villagers who couldn't see his pain and Iruka's attempts to befriend him, Naruto soon found himself spending most of his free time with Hinata just exploring the town, and like a good friend, Naruto found out that Hinata was having trouble at home because they thought she was too weak, so Naruto decided that they could train together so that way, everyone would benefit. What seemed like a good idea at the time turned out to be a horrible idea, at least in Naruto's opinion, when he finally got Hinata to let out her inner shinobi after a speech that slapped some sense into the kind-hearted girl. This isn't a game, Hinata. You, your comrades, and your village could all be lost if you don't have the resolve needed to do what you have to. Yes, it is good to be kind, but there is a time and place for all things, and the battlefield isn't a place to be kind. So you have to make a choice. Either give up on being a shinobi or harden your resolve and show me what you can do. Those were Naruto's exact words on that day. Hinata finally stopped hiding behind her own inferiority complex and let her real self shine after that. From that point on, it had only been uphill for the girl. With Naruto's help, she was able to master the Juken she had been taught, and with the help of the closet prankster, she was able to steal some of the more advanced Juken scrolls without the main family finding out. Taking a note from her partner's playbook, Hinata decided to work on her own techniques instead of basing her whole arsenal solely on just what she was taught. Researching everything on chakra that she could find, Hinata couldn't find any inspiration for a new jutsu until she saw Naruto use his chakra. It wasn't the Chakra Shaku or its variations that caught her eye, but the way his chakra seemed to constantly overflow from his body and act as an early warning system. From there on, it was a domino effect as Hinata figured out a way to release her chakra in a similar field that surrounded her hands. The field acted like her personal Juken amplifier, and the results from her first test were shocking. In a family spar, Hinata used the amplifier on every finger and was able to effectively use Juken from all of her fingers and close Tenketsu with the slightest touch. Needless to say, Hanabi was quickly defeated with the newly dubbed Jutesaki, gentle fingers, and the turmoil growing in the Hyuga household subsided, for now at least. Naruto, on the other hand, got more than he originally thought he would get out of this friendship. Hinata, being the friend that she was, taught Naruto some of the basics to a good taijutsu form like a stable base, and hands in a ready position, but Naruto refused to learn Juken when the girl offered, saying, "Juken is your family taijutsu and I doubt I'm ready to join your family, Hinata." The mere implication left Naruto smirking, and Hinata beat red before the girl got Naruto back by closing a few well-placed tenketsu points, freezing the boy right where he was standing. From the hints that Hinata gave, Naruto used what he was naturally given to form his own taijutsu style that, much to his surprise, came out to be a lot like the Hyuga's Juken. But unlike the Hyugas, Naruto didn't have the Byakugan, so he used his overflowing chakra as a screen that reacts to both chakra and killing intent inside its set area. Using this screen, Naruto was able to strike using the overflowing chakra to code each of his blows. When used, it had a few surprising effects. One being able to distort anyone trying to mold their chakra when his chakra-coated fist came too close to chakra trying to mold. This had a particularly vexing effect on Hinata, who found it increasingly harder to use her family's taijutsu when Naruto could just cancel it out by simply bringing his fist near hers. The other effect was rather cool, or so Naruto thought. Because it was his chakra that was constantly flooding the area around him, Naruto had a limited control over his natural chakra element in the area, or specifically the air that was in his chakra's territory. After a little practice, Naruto was able to make airstrikes in the area without molding the Junshu chakra, territory chakra, but just guiding it with something like a kick or punch. It went extremely well with Naruto new taijutsu form, which he named Hake. Kenshoken, 8 divinations. Striking fist. After its parent style Hake. Juken. Nevertheless, true to his kitsune nature due to the after effects of his binding to Kyubi's chakra, Naruto developed a way to mold his overflowing chakra, Junshu chakra, so that it could cover the area with a genjutsu. After that same development, Naruto began to work with the genjutsu field until he was actively able to disguise the whole area with regular bunshin, which in turn stopped Mizuki from embarrassing him in class because he couldn't compress his chakra into a bunshin. Back to the ongoing duel with Hinata, Naruto found himself being pummeled by Hinata's Jutesaki and used his Hake Kenshoken to distort her Tenketsu closing attacks before hitting her with a double-handed open palm strike, and then used his Junshu chakra to push the girl back and stun her for a second with a mass amount chakra overflowing her system. Watching the girl lose control of her chakra within seconds, Naruto sent a pulse through his Junshu chakra, effectively blinding the girl's Byakugan, before making a hasty retreat. Shaking the spot from her eyes, Hinata looked around for Naruto, before swearing silently when she could find him. All-out assault is the only way I can beat Naruto, Hinata thought to herself before scanning the area for Naruto's Junshu chakra. Sighing when she couldn't detect it, Hinata knew that Naruto was probably setting up some type of trap outside the range of her Byakugan. Originally, Naruto's Junshu chakra proved to be more of a hindrance when fighting Hinata's Dujutsu, because even with all of its benefits, it was like a homing beacon for Hinata's eyes to zone in on. In order to counter that, Naruto began experimenting on ways to make his constantly overflowing chakra less noticeable. In the end, he began to let the chakra blend with the natural chakra that every living thing gives off. Now what started as a hindrance is now an effective weapon against all Dujutsu. Naruto could now almost completely hide his presence to the Byakugan, and if Hinata got too close to beating him, he could flare up his Junshu chakra and blind the girl while making a quick escape to regroup. Watching from the Byakugan's blind spot, Naruto knew that even with his chakra completely concealed to Hinata, that if she saw his body, she would spot him and his plan would be ruined. Closing in on his prey, Naruto could practically taste the girl's anxiety. Good, she can feel my presence, but can't find me, Naruto thought, mentally applauding the girl, before springing his trap. Flaring his Junshu chakra, and blinding the girl before molding the surrounding chakra into an area affecting genjutsu. Hinata was surrounded by darkness, and knowing Naruto, he probably had double-layered the genjutsu so that everyone on the outside would only see the trees surrounding them. Steeling herself, Hinata bought some time for herself by saying, "Dirty trick, Naruto. I swear if I find you I'll show you how much Juken can hurt." Waiting for Naruto to reply, hoping his voice would give away his location. "Come on, Hinata, you can do better than that," Naruto said, but to Hinata's dismay, his voice came from every direction. Scrunching her face, Hinata used her chakra like Naruto's Junshu chakra in hopes that she could dodge his attack. But right as Naruto entered her small zone, She knew he was moving too fast for her to counter or dodge. Expelling chakra from her body, Hinata made a silent vow to finish learning Kaden to stop something like this from ever happening again when Naruto suddenly stopped. With his illusion wavering, Naruto had little time to bring up a pulse in his Junshu chakra to blind Hinata so he could make a clean getaway before a heavy pressure gripped his head. It was like someone had his mind in a vice grip. It didn't take long for Naruto to figure out who it was, and when the realization dawned on him he muttered a mental "Ino" in a pain-filled voice before he heard, "the one and only," as the pressure doubled. Watching as his genjutsu fell, Naruto looked at the last member of his opponent's team, and was pissed to see that the pink-haired girl was able to crack his genjutsu in such a short time. The two girls had originally swore not to talk to Naruto, but after hearing only good praise from Hinata, and seeing how much the girl had grown, they revised their earlier verdict. Both came to Naruto and Hinata's little sparring group in hopes to get stronger and maybe catch Sasuke's eye, but that soon changed when they found themselves too tired to even think about the boy. Within the first week, they both were wearing weights like their two friends and actively participating in new methods to use their chakra to suit their needs. Sakura, with her near-perfect control, quickly picked up some of the genjutsu she had gotten from Hinata, who in turn swiped them from the Hyuga library while she got the advanced Juken scrolls. The only thing keeping her from using them were her small reserves, so Naruto took it upon himself to raise everyone's reserves including his own. This led to them doing a set of brutal water walking and tree climbing drills that not only raised their chakra reserves but also their stamina. Now the drills were used as a warm-up for the day, and Sakura had more than enough chakra to use the more advanced genjutsu. Ino on the other hand, stuck with her family jutsu but used them in more inventive ways. With increased reserves and control over her chakra, Ino began experimenting with different ways to use her mind-related jutsu. The result was the ability to create a link with anyone within her target range that couldn't put up a barrier to block her probing. The jutsu, Omoi Buraiji, Mind Bridge, link allowed her access to another person's mind, with her leaving her body, but it sacrificed her ability to actively control someone. So instead she fell back on her psychology classes with her father and learned to use a form of gentle persuasion. Another side effect of the link was her ability to attack the person's mind by creating pressure from kicking up too many thoughts at once. With the three girls' combined powers being used against him, Naruto knew that he was about to be screwed when his chakra pulse fell, giving them an opening to attack. But as soon as he did, a shadow swept over him protectively before pulling him back under its dark grip, breaking Ino's connection with his mind. Shaking the remainders of Ino's chakra-induced headache away, Naruto turned to Shikamaru and said with a smirk, "What took you so long?" And the boy then said his catchphrase in response before turning to his lifelong friend Choji and nodding. It looked as if they had a plan, and by the looks of it, he was going to like it. Creating another genjutsu with his Junshu chakra, Naruto knew that Sakura had sensed it and turned to Shikamaru, who was hiding with him, nodded, which signaled that step 1 was complete. Turning to Choji, Naruto smiled when the larger boy, who surrounded his body with chakra, waited for the girls ready to give them the surprise of their lives. The two boys didn't want to join Naruto's little spar group until they started seeing Ino's progress. The girl was starting to act strange, or at least more strange than usual. She talked of Sasuke less, and she was beginning to nag them less on their material things and more on training. Therefore, Shikamaru's analytical mind couldn't take not knowing anymore and decided to investigate while bringing Choji along too. From there they were hooked and stayed ever since. Much to the elder Nara's surprise, Shikamaru actually took his training a step further and asked his father to help him train. The shocked older man couldn't help but nod his head in confirmation before teaching his son some of the finer points of shadow bending. For someone so lazy, it was surprising that Shikamaru picked it up quickly and was now able to transport through his shadows, and do much more than just make his opponents mimic him when he got a hold of them. Choji, on the other hand, wasn't too thrilled about working so hard without being able to eat his chips, but after the first few days he got over it. Especially when he started losing some weight and attracting some attention from the opposite. The once big-boned child was now just a bit bigger than his lithe friend Shikamaru and had picked a new way to use his family techniques. Instead of bloating his body to increase the strength of his blows, Choji took a left from Naruto's chakra shaku Degeki and used his chakra to surround his arm in a bloated fist shape, increasing his strength to one even higher than Naruto's. Feeling his genjutsu start to crumble, Naruto signaled to Shikamaru that the girls had taken the bait, and instead of waiting for Sakura to break the genjutsu, they had Choji come barreling out in his protective cocoon of molded chakra. Instantly recognizing the revised meat tank, the girls jumped out of the way knowing how much damage the rolling ball of chakra could do. Normally a kid, with the exception of Naruto, didn't have the reserves needed to produce enough chakra to support something like that, but ever since Choji started training, his reserves were only second to Naruto's. It turned out that the calories he soaked up while eating chips did hold chakra, but now that they were gone, they left his body more room to store chakra without having to burn the calories to obtain it. Looking up, Shikamaru mentally patted himself on the back as the plan fell together. Looking at the girls' shadows, lengthened now that the girls had jumped into the air exposing them to more sunlight, Shikamaru connected his shadow with theirs as they approached, capturing them without causing too many injuries. Naruto and Choji then moved into the checkmate position, as Shikamaru called it, while Shikamaru struggled to hold the girls. Once done, the girls knew that they lost and admitted defeat. "Why does this happen every time?" Ino yelled to no one in particular while stomping the ground. "Our strategy was perfect. We attacked and subdued Shikamaru and Choji while Hinata held off Naruto until we could all take him. Why didn't it work?" Ino yelled. Choji, who had taken a liking to the girl, was trying to pacify the infamous Yamanaka temper. Sighing, Ino conceded to the boy's wishes much to his pleasure, but still demanded an explanation which Shikamaru supplied. "It was simple. I anticipated your move and we let ourselves be beaten, before coming to Naruto's aid and setting a trap for you. It fit perfect really. Knowing Sakura's natural ability to detect genjutsu, we set it so that she would come to the genjutsu we set as bait, and when was cracking it we attacked, catching you totally off guard," Shikamaru said, apparently not seeing Choji making signals for him to shut up. Not paying any mind to the growing killing intent coming from the girls, Shikamaru went as far as to say, "You know being that predictable will be the death of you," but then realized what a jam he was in. Naruto and Choji were long gone and he was face to face with three pissed off and bloodthirsty kunoichi. After about 10 minutes, Naruto and Choji crept back after the killing intent disappeared. There was an ominous air over area they had christened Shikamaru's Hollow, after their POW comrade. When they entered the clearing, they saw the three girls all sitting intently watching the boy squirm against the ropes that tied him to the tree. As Naruto's Junshu chakra filled the area, the blonde winced when his chakra came in contact with Shikamaru's. From the feel of it, Hinata had closed some of the most painful tenketsu on the boy's body, and from the far-off look on his face both boys shudder as they thought, "Sakura's genjutsu." Moving to help their friend, both boys were surprised that the girls were fine with them helping Shikamaru instead of trying to stop them, and they wisely kept their mouths shut. After releasing the captive boy, Shikamaru began his recap on what happened, starting with Hinata disabling him before Ino battered his mental defenses just enough for Sakura to place a genjutsu on his mind. Apparently the mere though of the genjutsu reduced the boy to a shivering pile of mush, and only increased the fear, respect Naruto and Choji had for their female training partners. Dismissing the meeting, all parties left to their homes sore. The Ino, Shika, Choji trio went the opposite way that Naruto and Hinata went, as they all lived on the opposite side of town. After saying his goodbyes to Hinata, Naruto settled at his favorite ramen stand, and ordered a large bowl before thinking about what had happened that day and the past 5 years. "We've grown," was all Naruto could think at the time while taking a long slurp of his ramen. "The graduation exam is tomorrow and I know we will all pass," Naruto said, mentally smiling, but hiding it under his public face. The next day, it had been the same as before. Naruto had had another vision from a place he had never been, but was completely familiar with. This time he had been in a bedroom, much grander than his. The deep crimson bed set complemented gold foxes statues and paintings that decorated the room. As he seemed to fall asleep, a knife was placed to his neck. The assailant was a masked female with deeply tanned skin that was covered with short soft black cloth that looked strangely like the ninja gear the more elite females wore. There was a little unheard chit-chat between him and the female that no matter how much Naruto tried to hear, he couldn't. And as the masked went in for the kill, Naruto flipped her on her back, before unmasking her, and that's where the dream ended. Waking up in a sweat, Naruto looked at his clock and loudly cursed when he saw he was already 5 minutes late. At school, Iruka had a bad feeling in the pit of his stomach. Naruto had never been this late before, even when he came in with new cuts on his legs and arms that he couldn't hide behind his clothes, but still tried to hide them from his classmates. The exam was almost over and Naruto was nowhere to be seen. After calling his name for the third and last time, Iruka couldn't help but let out a depressed sigh when he was forced to fail Naruto. 10 minutes later the boy came in, huffing at his lack of breath. By the looks of his hair, he hadn't taken a proper shower in his rush to get here and his hair was still wet with bits of soap in it. Shaking himself off, Naruto was about to ask if he could take the exam, but the look on his instructor's face told it all. So here Naruto found himself swinging back and forth on the swing on the academy grounds. He knew he would have passed if he hadn't been late, but the dream had made him sleep through his alarm. Stopping his mental beratement when he felt his Junshu chakra going off, he looked at the intruder with slanted eyes. Mizuki, what does he want? Naruto thought to himself, and as if on some sort of cue, the man began explaining how he could graduate. Initially Naruto was suspicious and for good reason. What the Chunin was suggesting was clearly treason, but Naruto decided if he turned the man in he may get to graduate and a sneak peek at the scroll. A few hours later, Naruto was running through the forest surrounding Konoha, and stopped a miles off from where Mizuki originally intended. After cracking the verification code, Naruto assumed that his father's blood gave him access to the scroll and with a shrug, the boy began digging into the scroll. The first technique, Kage Bushin, Shadow Clone, had his name written all over it, and unlike the normal Bunshin, it was direct splitting of his chakra, making it much easier for him to form it, rather than trying to force his chakra into a small place. The second jutsu though was much more appealing. Naiteki Kai, Inner Release, was the name. Not too impressive, Naruto thought to himself before he read the description. Releases the inner potential of a shinobi. Not to be confused with the 8 inner chakra gates, this release doesn't affect the chakra flow, it just releases the natural inhibits your body sets through a hypnotic trance. There were the only words written before the scroll went on to the next technique. I guess it's worth a shot, Naruto thought to himself while remembering what the Sandame said. You are not the Kyubi and you are not its container. You are the barrier that keeps him from coming back and never forget it. Naruto mentally recited, before going through with the hand seals. Pain erupted through the boy's body as he let out a blood-curdling scream that rang throughout all of Konoha, but even then it didn't drown out the gravel voice's words in his head, who has summoned me? And with that, Naruto blacked out. The flock of birds scattering from his right confirmed Naruto's position and Iruka hoped that he got to the boy in time to stop anyone from exacting revenge against the Kyubi vessel. Upon his arrival, Iruka let out a sigh when he found out that he was able to beat everyone to the boy, but as he approached Naruto, his shinobi sense was going off. Dodging the hail of kunai from behind, Iruka spun around before catching the Fuma shuriken that was about to cleave his head. Gripping the 4-bladed shuriken harder, Iruka looked at the smiling face of his assailant. Just Mizuki, Iruka thought before something clicked. The Hokage wanted Naruto back alive and judging by his actions, Mizuki was about to bypass that order. Watching his fellow partner stand over the demon child protectively, Mizuki had to bite back a laugh at the irony. You, the child orphaned by the Kyubi, are going to protect the very thing that took away what meant most to you. That's rich, Mizuki cried while laughing. Iruka just ignored the man while steeling himself for a fight. He's not going to kill Naruto, not until I can apologize to him, Iruka thought as he watched his assistant teacher calm down from his laughter. I guess you aren't going to step aside, so I guess I'll just have to move you, Mizuki said before dashing toward Iruka, his Fuma shuriken spinning like a buzzsaw. Letting in a calming breath, Iruka readied himself before dashing forward with his Fuma shuriken spinning. Inside Naruto, it hurts all over, Naruto thought, and to his surprise, his thoughts echoed across the sewer-like room he found himself in. Getting up off of the dank ground, Naruto looked forward and saw the biggest vault he had ever seen. The intricate stone lock had several red and blue pipes coming in and out of it. Letting his eyes fall from the top to bottom, Naruto saw a small opening, like a keyhole for the vault. Around the circular hole were words written in kanji. Here lies the power to damn the world. Scourge all those who live under the torments of Makai and let the world feel the judgment of all those who seek to destroy it. However, here also lies the power of a savior, one at that will purge the world of all evil and protect those from the impending genocide. Come those who dare to unlock this power and control your destiny, and with that Naruto stopped reading the kanji spiraling around the dark hole. Fear, an emotion Naruto hadn't felt in years, covered the boy and clouded his judgment. This power was more than likely the Kyubis, and the rumbling behind the grand tomb walls only helped confirm that thought. Is this my potential Gigi? To either save all those I love, or damn them? Naruto thought to himself before plunging his arm into the unknown depths of the keyhole. The words spiraling around the hole began to glow crimson before turning into an abyssal black. The grand tomb door began to unlock itself around Naruto's imprisoned left arm. After much movement, the great stone wall slid into the corners of the sewer-like room, leaving Naruto's arm unharmed, but that was the least of his worries. Instead of rubbing his sore arm, Naruto's attention was captured by the black chakra that was coming out of the once sealed room like a low-lying fog. Behind the veil of darkness came a ghost pale arm covered in kanji, the same type of kanji that was on the door. Instantly, years of dreams came flooding back into Naruto's mind. Staring at the being that stepped out of the darkness, Naruto was only able to whisper, "Shinigami." This being, the Shinigami, was the beast locked within Naruto. It alone controlled the borders between life and death and commanded inhabitants on both sides. Now it was looking Naruto in the eye and telling him, "Human, come and see if you are strong enough to take the power Yondaime left you during his last moments," the Shinigami said before moving towards Naruto. Dodging the swipe from the ghost-like hands of the Shinigami, Naruto instantly flared up his Junshu chakra and tried to land a Kenshoken strike with it, but what seemed like a direct hit turned out to be just a minor distraction for the death god. Okay, let's try this, Naruto thought before activating his Charka Shaku. Wrapping the energies around his fist, Naruto dashed at the monster and with a loud war cry, launched his fist into the Shinigami. Instead of blowing back the monster like Naruto thought, the Chakra Shaku, Degeki would have, the Death Lord simply looked down on the boy whose arm was now stuck inside of him. Returning the favor, the Shinigami pushed his arm through the boy's chest and thus infected his chakra system. Now the true test begins, was all Naruto heard before a burning pain shot through his body and all his senses went blank. Topside, this should be over soon Naruto, I promise, Iruka thought to himself after hearing Naruto whisper, "Shinigami," followed by loud moans of agony. The words death god never sat well with Iruka, especially since it had taken the fourth from the village and sealed a monster inside a child, and now that boy was whispering that in his sleep before moaning in pain was more than a bad omen for him. Clashing Fuma Shuriken with Fuma Shuriken, Iruka knew that it was only a matter of time before he would defeat Mizuki. Jumping back from their deadly game of touch and go as Iruka began to spin his stolen shuriken again and rushed forward to meet Mizuki, who was doing the same. Slowing down slightly to avoid Mizuki's attempt to cut his head off, Iruka countered with a downward slash that nicked Mizuki's attacking arm. Following it up with a back leg sidekick, Iruka landed a bone-shattering blow to Mizuki's stomach. Breathing in, Iruka never took his eyes off of Mizuki before exhaling and charging forward faster than ever. Mizuki wasn't stupid. He knew that once he lost his element of surprise that Iruka would soon outclass him. This was the reason why he was the assistant sensei and Iruka commanded above him, but where Mizuki lacked in skill, he made up in cunning. He knew that Naruto was defenseless and that Iruka would do just about anything in his power to keep the boy safe, so that's why Mizuki sent his Fuma Shuriken speeding towards Naruto. Everything went according to the criminal's plan as Iruka's attention was averted to protect Naruto, and Mizuki was able to temporarily escape his imminent death. Throwing his own Fuma Shuriken, Iruka let out a sigh of relief when his connected with Mizuki's and caused it to swerve away from Naruto. Turning his gaze towards his assistant teacher, Iruka guessed that this was going to be an unarmed battle now. With Naruto's Junshu chakra thrashed around wildly, trying to attack the undead creature that was causing its host excoriating pain, but like before, the chakra simply phased through the being, leaving it unharmed. Feeling Kyubi's trapped chakra trying to soothe the mind-numbing pain to no avail, Naruto found himself between consciousness and sweet slumber. Whatever this thing was, it was a sadist at heart, leaving Naruto in a constant stream of pain that wasn't enough to knock him out but just enough to keep each pain receptor howling repeatedly. Pushing through his pain, Naruto flexed his midsection just enough so that he could look the Shinigami in the eyes. The cold black eyes met shining blue, and at that moment, the dead pale skin began to spread through Naruto like an infection. Feeling the welcomed cooling effect the dead chakra was giving, Naruto almost fell asleep but stopped when he felt something warm on his face. Rubbing his cheek, the boy couldn't find anything but the warm feeling continued to pool around his cheek, down his face and successfully distracted the boy from his pain long enough to think. I can't die here. I would let so many people down, so many people that need me to be there, and with that images of his friends. Sakura, Ino, Shikamaru, Choji, and Hinata flashed through his head before countless others that had in one way or another pushed him to be the person he was today. So Naruto gritted his teeth and began to fight the cold hand of death that was now just under his neck. Pushing the invading chakra inward, Naruto compressed it in his chest, and after a few agonizing moments of holding the force there, he heard the Shinigami say, "You are worthy." And with that Naruto felt the burning pain stop and a wave of relief wash over him before he blacked out. Topside, Iruka found himself over Naruto, protecting the boy from the Fuma shuriken that would have surely killed him. Even though Iruka managed to save Naruto's life, he couldn't help but curse at himself when he realized that they were both doomed now. He was in no condition to continue fighting Mizuki, especially now that the said Chunin had his favorite weapon back while Iruka was defenseless. Thinking back, Iruka knew this moment was unavoidable as soon as Mizuki managed to get past him and retrieve both of the Fuma shuriken while Iruka was dazed from the cheap shot he landed, and being the underhanded bastard he was, he threw it at Naruto again, but this time Iruka didn't have one of his own to deflect it with, so there was only one option left. Now watching Mizuki close in on both of their prone and defenseless bodies, Iruka hoped Naruto would forgive him in the afterlife, but fate decided that he wouldn't have to wait until then. Naruto's eyes suddenly snapped open, and in a flash he had stopped Mizuki's shuriken in his intensified Junshu chakra field. Looking at the shuriken that seemingly stopped in midair, Mizuki first suspected that Iruka had set him up, but from the look on his academy teacher's face he was as shocked as he was. It wasn't until Naruto said, "Don't ever attack Iruka-sensei again," did Mizuki snap out of his reverie. Just one look into the boy's eyes and Mizuki knew that this wasn't the Naruto that gave a half-effort in class, or was late to the graduation exam. This boy was the holder of the fiercest Biju chakra, and by the look in his eyes he was his prey. Clutching his chest, Naruto saw Mizuki tense, expecting a blast from his chakra shaku, but what he got was something totally different. Instead of shooting chakra out of his pentacle, Naruto used his newest technique, Naiteki Kai, to unleash a surprising effect. The boy's usual black and blue outfit shifted to a traditional all-black kimono and hakama, but even with the change in clothes Naruto remained relatively the same until a hole appeared on his chest. The hole, decorated with 5 silver nodes surrounding him, laid directly behind his family's pentacle, and the instant Naruto looked down at it, a black chain shot before wrapping around his arm and digging into the ground, surrounded by black flames as it touched the ground. More than just a bit unnerved by the demon boy's transformation, Mizuki regained some lost confidence when Naruto fell to one knee, clutching his arm as the chains kept digging into the ground. Readying a second Fuma shuriken, Mizuki began to spin the blade like earlier, before taunting Naruto. "It seems the demon can't even control his own jutsu, and you thought that you could protect that idiot behind you when you can't even protect yourself," and with that Mizuki made a mad dash for Naruto, his blade buzzing behind him, which was ready to sever the boy's head. However, Naruto was not going to take this all lying down. On the contrary, he stood up with eyes blazing with fury before summoning from the depths of the earth his sword. Not just any sword, but something inside of Naruto said that this was his blade and more special than anything on this world. It was a Zanpakuto. Unsheathing his soul cutter, Naruto cut the blades right off of Mizuki's Fuma shuriken, before Naruto whipped his chains that were wrapped around his left arm at Mizuki, trying to capture the traitor. After watching Mizuki dodge and his chains cut through a few trees, Naruto stopped before he leveled the whole section of the forest. He stuck his Zanpakuto in the ground before making the seal for his other new jutsu. Taju Kage Bushin. Naruto cried as dozens of clones, all dressed in black with matching Zanpakuto, appeared in the area before grinning at Mizuki evilly. It was a long night for the soon-to-be ex-academy sensei. Dawn. Sarutobi couldn't help but laugh at Mizuki's predicament when the Anbu brought Naruto, Iruka, and the now lifeless Mizuki back. He had seen it all through his crystal ball, but the real-life version was so much funnier. Drawing his stern face and relieving the Anbu of their duty, Sarutobi went through the motions on lecturing Naruto before getting the boy's input on what had happened. Not taken back by the boy's ingenuity and forethought, Sarutobi only saw one flaw in Naruto's plan, and that was. So Naruto-kun, you may have successfully captured the criminal and saved the village scroll, but why did you have to read the scroll? I'm sure that wasn't needed for you to complete the mission, Sarutobi asked in a playful tone. Even though Naruto had done the village a good deed, he still needed to remind the boy that he wasn't totally off the hook. He had almost lost his life tampering with the scroll, and now he might have tampered the seal beyond repair. Looking like a deer in front of a Kaiden jutsu, Naruto quickly put on his smiling idiot mask before explaining his reasons to Sarutobi in hopes that it would help get him out of trouble. You see, old man, Mizuki would have probably made a run for it as soon as he found out it was a trap, so I needed to make him believe that I really stole the scroll, or he would have just left the village, Naruto said, looking the old man in the eye with an idiotic smile on his face. Without even listening to the blonde's explanation, Sarutobi could read, I read the scroll because I needed more jutsu, all over the blonde's face. Shaking his head, Sarutobi let the blonde go with a smile and decided he would get to the bottom of what the jutsu had done to Naruto later. Now for my favorite pastime, Sarutobi thought after he checked for the third time that Naruto and Iruka were out of the building and that he was clear to read his little orange book. With Naruto and Iruka, it was late, and from the looks of it, Naruto would be taking another year of academy classes with Iruka. Oh well, it won't be too bad this time around, especially without Mizuki Teme around and me being pissed at Iruka-sensei, Naruto thought as Iruka guided him to the ramen stand. Looking at the chunin, Naruto nodded his head and dug in. After about 5 bowls and a hole in Iruka's wallet, the chunin turned to Naruto nervously and said, "Close your eyes." For Naruto that statement was double-loaded, as he had grown up trusting only himself, few others, and the sandaime, but after what Iruka had done for him tonight, Naruto figured that it wouldn't hurt to let down his barriers again. So closing his eyes, Naruto heard some shuffling, and after he heard, "Open your eyes," Naruto was in shock as Iruka handed him his hiat. "I guess I'll see you tomorrow for team assignments," Iruka said, smiling at the boy who had dropped his idiot mask and gave the man a true smile. Nodding, Naruto tied the hiat tight before parting ways with Iruka. The next day, the 6 hours between his late graduation and class was the longest Naruto ever had to wait for something. In the few minutes he got of sleep between the time, he got more and more imagines from the land his body spirit knew, but his mind couldn't remember. It had picked up at a different spot this time. He was still in his extravagant crimson room, but something was off this time. Looking to his side, Naruto saw the ninja who was trying to assassinate him last time he checked, but by the situation they were in, Naruto concluded they were more than friendly now. The woman, whose skin was like that of shining bronze, looked into his eyes with her own cat-like golden eyes of hers. After a few whispers, Naruto's world blackened for a second and he found himself back in the same room, but the assassin was much different now. Her well-kept jet black hair was now in disarray, and her tight-fitting black linen outfit was cast aside, forgotten at the bedside. Looking at the now naked female who was crawling towards him with her cat-like eyes focused solely on his, Naruto couldn't help but feel like he, or whoever he was now, was going to be her new chew toy. And as the red silk bed lining was about to fall from her, Naruto's mind blackened again, but unlike the last time, he didn't return to his dream but to the waking world. Looking at his alarm clock, Naruto let out a breath before saying aloud, "Might as well take a shower now that I have some time," before making his way to the shower, hoping that a cold shower would wipe some of the hot sweat and hentai thoughts away. The nice, cold shower did the trick, and Naruto didn't have even the slightest hentai thought in his mind. No, the boy thought, I just had to take an effing cold shower. I feel like an effing icicle now. Rubbing some feeling back into his legs, Naruto moved to his arms, and after 5 full minutes of rubbing, Naruto looked down at his left arm that just didn't seem to warm up and saw something that scared him shitless. Coiling up his arm were 2 chains tattoos, interlocking in an intricate pattern all the way up his arm before stopping at his shoulder where the 2 split, where each were traveling to the middle of his chest where the chains had originally started from, one in the front and the other in the back. The sensation, much like the one he felt when the Shinigami was trying to kill him, scared Naruto into a panic. How am I going to hide this? Forget how am I going to hide this, how am I going to survive if this thing tries to kill me again? Naruto thought in frenzy. It had taken him a full 10 minutes for Naruto to calm down enough to rationalize his thoughts. It hasn't killed me yet, so it must be dormant. The boy began nodding in approval to his own theory. So if I just wrap it, it shouldn't activate unless, and that's when it hit Naruto. The chains only sprang to life when he used Naiteki Kai. That must be the key to activating it, and if I stay away from using that jutsu, I should be fine, Naruto thought as he wrapped his left arm in bandages. Naruto checked twice to make sure they wouldn't come loose before leaving for the academy. On his arrival, Naruto ignored those who questioned, why was he here, and just shut up the more persistent with a simple point at his heat. Looking up at the smug Uchiha who didn't look too thrilled that Naruto had passed, Naruto found that annoying the Uchiha was much more pleasurable now that he had the arrogant smirk off of his face. Sitting down with Hinata, Shikamaru, and Choji, Naruto watched Sakura and Ino fight for a spot by Sasuke with Sakura as the winner. Rolling his eyes when Ino stalked back to sit next to Choji, Naruto proceeded to tell them a heavily edited version of how he passed and now he would be able to join a team with them to kick some enemy nin and Uchiha, but that was until Iruka said. Team 7. Haruno Sakura, Uchiha Sasuke, and Uzumaki Naruto. Read and review. Naruto didn't know whether to be irritated or relieved. Even though Iruka had said he passed, the man must have been up all night getting Naruto a spot with the graduating class, but couldn't he have put him with Hinata or Shikamaru? Hell, he would have settled for Ino, but he just had to get the Uchiha. It's not fair, Naruto thought to himself, and as if reading his mind Iruka said, Naruto, don't complain. You have the worst scores in the class since technically you failed, but because of uncontrollable events, you have been given permission by the Hokage to pass. Biting his bottom lip, Naruto caught the retorts that were on the edge of his tongue. He didn't want to be teamed up with his rival. Not only would the boy be able to see more of his techniques that way, but also the Sharingan, copy wheel eye, to worry about when it woke up. Figures that the biggest prick in the world gets the Sharingan, and with it access to all my jutsu, Naruto thought to himself, and the injustice done to him. The Sharingan was the pride of the Uchiha and their enemy's worst nightmare. One look and all jutsu, your plans, and your secrets were revealed to the red-eyed bastards. Turning to Iruka, Naruto sat back down with his friends and waited for the rest of the teams to be called. It seemed fate only hated Naruto as Hinata got Kiba and Shino, who Naruto considered good shinobi, but they were a bit unsocial, or in Kiba's case too social. As for Shikamaru, he got paired with his lifelong friends Choji and Ino. Seeing everyone else in his group happy with whom they were paired with, Naruto's sour mood only sunk lower. Even his best friend and sister, Hinata, couldn't get him to smile his idiot mask smile. I guess the thought of being paired with Sasuke was too much, even for Naruto's idiot mask to hide, Hinata thought before using her trump card. Whispering to Naruto, it's not too bad, we can still train together after team meetings, and besides you have Sakura as your partner, Hinata said, hoping that her words would lift his spirits. It was a little-known fact to Hinata Naruto had thought Sakura was cute and was a key factor to turning her off to the thoughts of Naruto as a lover and to Naruto as a brother. However, what looked like something to cheer the boy up turned out to have the opposite effect as Naruto retreated farther into himself. Sakura is cute, but her infatuation with the Uchiha is more than enough reason not to chase her, Naruto thought to himself at all the possible outcomes of this team being put together would lead to. On one hand, he would end up beating Sasuke into a coma once he started on his emo trips and successfully getting Sakura to never talk to him again. Smiling at the thought of Sasuke beaten so bad he couldn't talk, Naruto's conscience piped up saying, but you would lose a friend in the process. Letting out a sigh, Naruto knew his friends were worth more than gold to him and losing Sakura would be a blow to him, so Naruto just settled for fantasies of him upstaging the Uchiha survivor. Several fantasies later, Naruto wiped away the thoughts of hitting Sasuke where it hurt and came to the conscious world when he noticed that all his friends were gone. Even Hinata, who had been sitting right next to him, was gone, and as any good ninja Naruto felt embarrassed that he had been so far gone that he hadn't noticed that she left or 2 hours had passed. Taking his eyes off of the clock, Naruto noticed Sakura was still kissing up to Sasuke, and the brooding Uchiha looked as if his patience had worn out. Laughing at Hiboy's predicament, Naruto figured it was for the best that Sakura liked the Uchiha instead of him and decided to celebrate his revelation with a prank on their late teacher. Seeing Naruto's inner child come out, Sakura couldn't help but agree with Naruto when he felt him flare his Junshu chakra subtly, before hiding something in its genjutsu field. In addition, as if willed by the gods themselves, their incredibly late instructor came into the room with a little orange book in hand. From there everything fell into place. Hidden underneath his genjutsu was a bucket of water held by Naruto's chakra, and once the door upon the seal holding the bucket broke, falling on Kakashi's head and soaking him to the bone and ruining his book. Looking at his now ruined copy of Icha Icha Paradise, Kakashi held back his killing intent before speaking out. "Your first impression sucks," before pointing to the roof and leaving for the stairs. Following Kakashi with a smirk, Naruto was already feeling better and the thought of having Sasuke on his team was a little more bearable. "So why don't you tell me your likes, dislikes, and hobbies?" Kakashi said, trying to break the ice. His one visible eye was totally focused on them now his favorite book was destroyed. Looking from face to face, Kakashi realized none of them were going to volunteer and decided to go when Sakura said, "Shouldn't you go first, sensei?" "My name is Hitaki Kakashi and my likes are none of your business. My dislikes are things that piss me off, and my hobbies are well," Kakashi said, letting out a pervert giggle after his long pause. It didn't take much for Naruto to piece together that he was a pervert just like most other men Naruto knew outside of the academy. Watching as Kakashi pointed to Sakura saying, "Ladies first," Naruto was interested in hearing what the girl's opinion would be now that she had a taste of what the shinobi life really was like. "My name is Haruno Sakura and my likes are training and my dislikes are Ino Pig, and my hobbies are working hard enough for a certain someone to notice me," Sakura said, giving a pointed look to Sasuke who just ignored the girl's presence. Both Naruto and Kakashi suppressed a sigh before saying to themselves, "At least she isn't totally obsessed with Sasuke," before Kakashi pointed to the boy in question. With an attitude fitting his coming emo trip, Sasuke said, "My name's is Uchiha Sasuke and my likes are irrelevant. My dislikes are fangirls, and my dream is more of an ambition and that ambition is to see a certain man dead," Sasuke said, effectively killing all the happy thoughts around him and making Kakashi say to himself, "Great. A teen angst that who has an Avenger complex. I should have stayed Anbu," before pointing to Naruto, hoping to the gods that he would be at least remotely normal. "My name is Uzumaki Naruto and my likes are my family, dislikes are pricks in general. And my hobby is to better myself to keep all that I hold dear safe," Naruto said, dropping his idiot mask and looking Kakashi right in the eye. The experienced Jonin didn't even bat an eyelash, but on the inside he was a bit shocked that someone so young had such cold eyes. Kyubi caused more harm than anyone could imagine, Kakashi thought while reminiscing on his dead teammates and sensei. "I'll make sure something like that never happens again," Kakashi thought before thinking of the perfect exam to give to his cell. Standing and facing all three of his students, Kakashi said, "Tomorrow the real test will beginning, and if you pass all three of you will be genin, but if you fail it's back to the academy with you," earning him the shocked expression he was hoping for. "The passing rate is 33% and we will start at 8 sharp, and a little hint, I wouldn't eat breakfast if I were you," Kakashi said while biting back a giggle. "We'll see if the fangirl, the Avenger, and the Enigma can make the cut," the silver-haired Jonin thought before poofing away, leaving his three students to sulk, brood, or look confused. Once the team dispersed, Naruto headed directly for the shopping district of Konoha. The 2-hour wait for his sensei made Naruto think back to how he became a genin and what lurked inside his body. The Shinigami was now a part of him, and whether he liked it or not, it wasn't going anywhere. Even though the thought of being a death god scared him senseless, the thought of using a sword wasn't too bad. The only problem was that no one in the village would sell him a sharpened sword, under the thoughts that he would kill them in their sleep. So Naruto was forced to buy a wooden sword and hope that he could find someone to teach him to use it. However, before he even began thinking of possible teachers, the bottomless pit he called a stomach was calling for food. "I'll figure this out later, but for now I need food," Naruto said to himself before making his way to his favorite ramen stand. Much to his surprise, both Team 8 and Team 10 were there prepping themselves for the next day. Apparently his group wasn't the only group that had to take another exam the next day, and by the looks of it all of them were nervous. "Hinata, you know you are good enough to pass, and even with Kiba on your team, Shino more than makes up for it, so you guys are assured to pass," Naruto said to the girl who looked to be reverting to her old unconfident self. Picking fun at Kiba was worth it to see his friend smile again, and with his stomach filled and mission complete, Naruto went home and tried to get some sleep for the upcoming day. Dreams. Whoever he was, all Naruto knew was that he was angry. No, furious was more of the word, as Naruto watched his oh-so-familiar body destroy the forest surrounding his old Japanese-style castle under the red sky. The servants were all inside huddled together, hoping that their master wouldn't take his anger out on them, and by the looks of it, they were right to be hiding. Red chakra shot out of his body much like his Junshu chakra, but unlike his chakra, the crimson chakra melted everything it touched, scorching the ground under him. After melting a better part of the forest, a single servant came from behind him. The poor woman was trembling in her shoes and wouldn't even look him in the eye. After a few words were said, the red chakra receded and became what looked like 9 long spear-like tails. Naruto felt himself smile and dismissed the girl, back to his castle, before he felt a smile on his face. For once, Naruto actually heard something from his mute flashbacks. "The humans will pay," was the solitary phrase Naruto heard before he felt his body shift and change and the world go black. Waking up in a cold sweat, Naruto knew that whatever happened next directly affected all the humans in the world, and for some strange reason he felt that it especially had something to do with Konoha. Looking at his alarm clock, Naruto noticed he had woken up an hour early and decided to take a long shower to rid him of the sweaty smell and try to make sense out of another one of those familiar dreams. With 30 minutes to spare, Naruto couldn't help but make himself breakfast, and by the time he had gotten to the planned meeting area, Naruto had already eaten a good 5 bowls of ramen. "It's cheap, but it gets the job done," the boy thought to himself before watching a zombie like Sakura make her appearance. The girl looked like she got any sleep at all, and from the sound of her stomach, she didn't get to eat either. Naruto felt bad for the girl as he said his hellos, but stemmed his guilt with the thoughts that she should be ready for anything. However, when Sasuke came in, looking like he could kill a Jonin with one look, Naruto couldn't help but find that funny. "Serves him right for being such a prick in the academy," Naruto said to himself, while quietly snickering at the Uchiha who was now trying to look cool by brooding on the other end of the training field, something that he was horribly failing at now, no thanks to his stomach. 3 hours passed and Kakashi broke his record of extreme tardiness by arriving at the training patch at 11 o'clock sharp. Naruto, who had been packed full on arrival, had thoroughly digested his food and was ready to go, but his teammates had to settle for a weak glare at the sensei and Sakura yelling, "You're late." Looking at his hopeful students, Kakashi noticed that Naruto was the only one that seemed to have life and was showing it by doing some stretches to loosen up for his test. "Good, it seems at least one of my students can think for themselves. Now let's see if he can think outside of the box," Kakashi thought before giving the weak excuse, "I got lost on the path of life," which only served to infuriate Sakura more. After dispelling a Chunin-level genjutsu from Sakura, Kakashi said, "Good, but I don't recall telling you that it was okay to start, or even give any directions." Looking at the blushing pink-haired girl with his now upside down, he took out 2 bells. Kakashi then said, "To pass, you each have to retrieve a bell," opening his lazy eye fully, showing them that he was serious. "But Kakashi-sensei, there are only 2 bells," Sakura said, stating the obvious. Looking at the man nervously, Sakura knew that there was something off with the man, and with him dispelling one of her strongest genjutsu without even blinking, just further confirmed that theory. "Well, that means one of you is going to go back to the academy, assuming that any of you have enough skill to take a bell from me. I'm setting the timer for noon, and by the looks of it, you only have 45 minutes before time is up. Come at me with everything you have and don't even bother if you aren't coming at me with the intent to kill," the cyclopic Jonin said before throwing Sasuke to the ground at the boy's failed charge attempt. Fortunately for Sasuke, Sakura had picked up the slack and cast another of her best genjutsu while Kakashi was distracted, giving Sasuke a chance to escape with her before Kakashi decided to do more than hurt the boy's ego. In a flash, the two were hidden in the trees and were watching in surprise as Naruto hadn't moved an inch but was standing right in front of Kakashi with his idiot mask on at full power. Shaking the remnants of the genjutsu from his vision, Kakashi looked at Naruto before saying, "You're a bit off, aren't you? And here I was thinking that you were the only who could think for himself," Kakashi said while looking at Naruto before pulling out a brand new limited edition copy of Icha Icha Paradise that he got through means he didn't want to talk about. "I'll leave that to your imagination." As Kakashi predicted, Naruto charged in blind fury, and when Kakashi went in to subdue the boy before spewing a lesson in life, something that the boy would take to heart, Naruto smirked. While Wild Leaping Attack was just to lower Kakashi's guard, and now that Naruto close enough, the boy unleashed a Chakra Shaku, Tama. All Kakashi could do was widen his eyes before the blast of chakra engulfed him. Naruto, who had just landed, was smirking under his idiot mask, before pain erupted between his cheeks. Turn around. Naruto saw Kakashi with a kunai jabbed in his ass, and then felt an explosion erupt. Sakura couldn't help but wince for her friend as he flew into the air before poofing out of existence. How did Naruto do that? Sakura asked herself when she realized that what Naruto had done wasn't a bushin. Moving from her spot, she realized that she needed to find Sasuke. Not because she wanted to be near her crush, but during short glimpse of watching Naruto's battle, none of them had any chance of beating Kakashi alone. Meanwhile, Naruto was hidden in a tree near where Kakashi had fought his clone, and thanks to his Junshu chakra blending with the natural chakra surrounding them, Kakashi had little to no chance of finding him unless he was looking directly at him. However, that thought alone was comforting as Naruto assessed the situation he and his teammates were in. Shit. Even with a clear shot and the element of surprise, I couldn't land a blow on him. At least he used that jutsu on the clone instead of me, Naruto said to himself before going to find Sakura and, with much less enthusiasm, Sasuke. I got a good batch. One is proficient with genjutsu, another knows Kage Bushin, and the last is the only surviving Uchiha, Kakashi thought to himself as he hid underground, safely away from Sasuke's Kaden. Gukakyu no Jutsu. After grabbing the Uchiha's legs and pulling him underground, Kakashi began his lecture on looking underneath when he felt a genjutsu fall on him for the third time. She's good, but this is getting tiring, Kakashi said to himself before guiding himself through the waves of vertigo, and gave Sakura a taste of her own medicine within a second's time. With 2 students incapacitated, Kakashi bounded off to find his last hiding student, but unknown to him Naruto was closer than he thought. Coming out of the woods, Naruto made sure he woke Sakura up from her genjutsu-induced sleep, before approaching Sasuke. Once the girl stopped muttering Sasuke-kun in her sleep and realized whatever Kakashi did was fake, he got her to team up with him. Now time for the hard part, Naruto thought to himself before going to the fuming boy who was stuck buried from the neck down. Squatting in front of Sasuke, Naruto started with, "I know you don't like me and for all I care you could burn in hell." Naruto started before hearing Sakura gasp. She must think that's blasphemy or something, Naruto thought while snickering before continuing, "But as you saw from my fight and what position you are currently in, we don't stand a chance fighting him alone," Naruto said, leaving the implication that Sasuke picked up on. Looking at Sakura, he sent the girl a look saying, "What did you think that I was going to do? Come out and say we need your help, Sasuke?" However, before she could answer, Sasuke said, "So what are you suggesting, Dobi?" Smirking at the boy from his vulnerable position. Naruto had to use all the self-control fibers in his body to resist the growing dark urge to pound Sasuke's face in with a chakra shaku. Degeki. Instead, Naruto just twitched slightly from his newly dubbed nickname, before letting Sakura talk to Sasuke. "Sasuke-kun, there is no way that you can beat Kakashi-sensei alone. He's a Jonin for a reason, and the only chance we will have is if we team up," Sakura said in a gentle voice. Both Naruto and Sasuke were in shock at what just happened. The words, "no way," and "Sasuke," came out of her mouth without "there's anyone hotter than" between them. Looking at the girl, Sasuke grumbled before whispering, "I'll do it," before Naruto already had his hand in the ground and pulled Sasuke up with the help of his chakra shaku. Degeki. Looking to Sakura, Naruto whispered with a devious grin, "Okay, here's the plan," before dropping Sasuke straight on his ass. With 5 minutes left on the clock, Kakashi couldn't help but say to himself, "And here I thought this group might pass," while reading his little orange book, and just as he was getting to the best part, his maybe students came at him from all angles. Not even looking up from his book, he sidestepped Sakura before making a grab for Sasuke only to get a handful of air. "Genjutsu," Kakashi thought before adding, "but it's not just Sakura's." No, this genjutsu saturated the area in chakra. Before Kakashi knew it, he had fallen into their trap. Dispelling the genjutsu, Kakashi found it took much more chakra than the last 3. Looking around, he saw Naruto holding 2 bells and Sasuke had in front of him a copy of his Icha Paradise while holding his hands in the ready position for another Gukakyu. "Okay, it seems you got the bells, Naruto, but now who passes with you?" Kakashi asked. "They have exceeded my expectations, but it's time for the final test," the Jonin said to himself before looking intently at Naruto. Meeting his gaze, Naruto smirked while dropping his idiot mask and said, "No one, because if only 2 of us pass we would break up this winning team. Right, guys?" Looking at Sakura, who nodded happily, and Sasuke, who just smirked at Naruto, and with him taking that as a yes, Naruto looked back at Kakashi and said, "And besides, if you fail us, we'll be forced to burn your book." Smiling his idiot smile at the man, but his eyes telling Kakashi he wasn't lying. Sighing, Kakashi said, "Team 7 passes," before turning his now upside down eye, which was staring intently into the little orange book that no one saw him get. "First mission begins at 8 sharp," were the last things Kakashi said before disappearing in a plume of smoke and with a perverted giggle. Turning to his new teammates, Naruto said, "Well, seeing as we are now a team, maybe we should get to know each other better," before leading them to his favorite ramen stand. "The genin life is overrated," Naruto said to himself while holding a hissing brown cat in his arms. It dare not scratch or bite him again after the wave of killing intent Naruto shot at it the first time, but that didn't stop it from making Naruto's life miserable. This is the 4th freaking time today, the boy thought when he returned the cat to its overbearing owner. The woman, the Fire Lord's wife, was just about strangling the cat as it tried frantically to escape. Maybe if she squeezes hard enough, she'll break the cat's spine and it won't be able to run anymore, Naruto thought sadistically while walking to the Hokage's office to receive his pay. D-class missions sucked, but with the extra time, Naruto could train by himself afterward, and whether he liked it or not, he needed the money. Unfortunately, doing the same mission over and over again was taking its toll on all the members of Team 7, including Kakashi, who was one step away from unleashing his ninken dogs on the cat and saying they found it dead. But before Kakashi could politely request a higher-level mission to test his team, Naruto spoke up. "Hokage-sama," Naruto started, much to everyone's surprise. Every time he addressed the man it was either Gigi or old man, but now he was oddly polite. He must want something, Sarutobi thought to himself before inhaling some smoke from his pipe. "You know, Naruto, you don't have to address me by my last name, you can always call me Sasuke." "One?" the elder Sasuke said before getting an incredulous look from everyone in the room. The older half, Kakashi and Iruka, were shocked he was letting a genin call him by his first name, and the younger half, Sakura, Sasuke, and Naruto, were shocked he shared the same name as the Uchiha survivor. Figures. The Uchiha favor power, and they must have thought giving one of their sons the mighty professor's name would make him just as strong. "Too bad Sasuke's too much of a prick to ever beat me," Naruto thought to himself before turning back to the Hokage. "Okay, Sasuke-sama, could you please give us a more challenging mission, like something in the C class?" Naruto said, ignoring the younger Sasuke, who was preening like a peacock at the words, "Sasuke-sama. If he thinks I'll ever say that to him, he's more delusional than his fangirls," Naruto thought to himself while ignoring Iruka's outbreak. Now Iruka, maybe if Naruto could show me how much he learned as a genin and prove to me he knows what a C-class mission entails, I might let them have it, the aged Sasuke said, before looking intently at Naruto, waiting for him to start. If there was ever a moment his team lacked faith in him, it was here. Therefore, deciding to use some of the amazing wit the older Sasuke imparted him with, Naruto began saying, "Well, there are several class of missions, starting with D class like we just completed. These are meant to build teamwork and trust among a genin cell without putting them in harm's way. Next is C class, which is done primarily by genin who have established a teamwork basis. At this level, they do not engage other shinobi, but do fight against bandits and other types of untrained rogues. From there, start the B-class missions that are done by Chunin and Special Jonin. Here we will engage enemy shinobi of the same level or lower, and the risk of death is much higher than that of the lower class missions. Above that is a class, and that is reserved for full-fledged Jonin who are willing to engage shinobi of the same level. This class has a higher mortality rating and is only giving to the most elite Jonin," Naruto said before Sasuke stopped him. Looking around, the boy saw his team was slack-jawed, and Kakashi was looking at him with an appraising eye. "Seems there is a bit more underneath than I suspected," the white-haired Jonin thought before Naruto continued. "So is that good enough to get us the mission?" Naruto asked, knowing he could have said more, but then again, genin aren't supposed to know that there are S-class missions of village security and that only Anbu, the elite of the elite, take these assassination missions. Sakura, who was slack-jawed at the fact that Naruto just recited, in detail, a textbook answer to the shinobi mission class system without slipping up once and adding additional information that he shouldn't have known. Is this the same boy who would only answer questions when Iruka was picking on him? Sakura asked herself while Naruto was facing the Hokage. Sasuke on the other hand was impressed, which he hid under a slight surprised look, that Naruto knew that much. I guess he's worthy to be my rival after all, Sasuke thought before turning his attention to the Hokage who he shared his name with. Looking at the Sandame's approving smile, Naruto smiled back knowing that they wouldn't be chasing after that cat anymore. Watching Iruka poof away to get their client, Naruto looked around and saw that his team may have some questions for him later. Oh well, it's better than them thinking I'm some sort of idiot, who just happens to be able to destroy trees with raw chakra, Naruto thought to himself, remembering the good times when he didn't have to worry about catching a cat at least 4 times a day. When he heard a knock at the door, Naruto turned around with his team to face his client, and what he saw wasn't what he was hoping for. Their client was a man at least in his late 50s, who by the smell of him was hardly ever sober, and to top it off he had the audacity to say, "Well, what do we have here? A blonde midget playing shinobi. Are you sure that he can protect me?" before introducing himself as Tazuna. The hell? Not only does he call me short, but also doubts my skills. Oh, I'll give him something that he needs protection from, Naruto thought to himself, but was stopped from killing the man by Kakashi, who was not only acting as a human shield for Tazuna, but was also getting back at the man for Naruto. "I'd advise you not to insult my students, Tazuna. They're trained shinobi who can kill you, especially the blonde one you just called a midget," Kakashi said, stepping aside for the man to see a pissed off Naruto who flickered his finger at him. "I'll leave you to guess which one," and left a scratch on the door. Looking at the now scared man, Naruto smirked before Kakashi decided to cut in. "Now that we have that out of the way, Tazuna, I am a Jonin, and I should be more than enough to stop anyone who may want to harm you on this C-class mission," Kakashi said, taking note of Tazuna's nervous demeanor. Turning to his team, Kakashi then said, "We meet at the gate in an hour. Read 3 hours," before leaving in a plume of smoke. Spending his 3 hours packing his spare clothes and gear, Naruto looked at the wooden sword laying next to his bed before saying aloud, "Maybe Kakashi knows how to use a sword," and leaving his apartment. With his wooden sword strapped to his back along with his gear, Naruto looked around and saw only Tazuna was at the gate. The aged man looked beyond pissed, and when he spotted Naruto, he immediately tried to apologize in hopes that he wouldn't see what else the boy could do without him seeing. "Don't worry about it. Just think of standing here for the last 2 hours as payment," Naruto said, feeling better that he didn't tell the man that Kakashi is usually a few hours late. It wasn't long before both his teammates showed up, and they were just in time to hear Kakashi's lame excuse. "I was held at the hospital after saving an old lady from a raging fire," Kakashi said while reading his orange book that Tazuna immediately recognized. "Liar!" Sakura yelled for good spirit, and Kakashi just shrugged. Somewhere across town an old woman thanked her young silver-haired savior for saving her from a burning building, not that anyone knew. Without further ado, the team left with their client, who was talking to Kakashi about which Icha paradise was the best. "Tazuna, I beg to differ, but when Mako and Hana crashed Yugito's session with Sakura wasn't the best part. No, my friend, when all 4 girls invited Keiko over for a session was the best part," Kakashi said a bit too loud for his students' liking. While Sakura was fuming that her name was in a perverted book and Sasuke was struggling to get the mental images out, Naruto just thought, this is going to be a long trip. 3 hours later, when Naruto saw the oddly suspicious puddle in the middle of the road, when it hadn't rained in days, the first thought that crossed through Naruto's mind was, finally something to do. However, on further contemplation the boy realized, if they think that hiding in a puddle when it hadn't rained in days is tactful, maybe this won't be so fun. Therefore, resisting the urge to fire a chakra shaku Tama at the puddle and saving all of them some time, Naruto just waited and watched the oddly placed puzzle, hoping someone other than Kakashi would pick up the disturbance. After about a minute, Sakura stopped kissing up to Sasuke and noticed the puddle, leaving the lone Uchiha ignorant to the danger that they were in. Swish! In the span of half a second, Kakashi had been ripped apart by the puddle dweller's chain connected to what looked like matching gauntlets. Geez, these guys must be broke if they can't even afford to get a set of gauntlets for each of them, Naruto thought to himself as one brother rushed him and the other Sasuke. Following the said Uchiha's lead, Naruto threw a kunai next to Sasuke's shuriken to lock the chain in place, immobilizing their attacks. Watching Sasuke stand in front of Tazuna and before performing an advanced taijutsu combo on one brother, Naruto decided to wrap this up quickly by landing a quick blow to the stomach with a half-powered chakra shaku. Degeki. Watching the man crumple over his probably broken ribs, Naruto motioned for Sakura to do her part. In what looked like a frightening display of hypnosis, Sakura used a genjutsu, inspired by Ino, to drag some information from the captured nins. The men struggled for about a second before the genjutsu hit them at full power, and they started spilling secrets left and right. I wet the bed until I was 15. My brother is a closet pervert, and we work in a gay bar for extra cash, the brother on the right said before falling back into his genjutsu-induced sleep. Pretending she didn't hear that, Sakura asked, "Okay, who are you working for?" hoping that they would give her a straight answer. "We work for Momochi Zabuza, got a recent job, lots of cash, Gatu, bridge builder," the nin said before passing out. The genjutsu had run its course and he and his brother would be out long enough for them to pick them up on the way back or until someone came and killed them. Either way was fine with Naruto, who had more pressing matters. However, before Naruto could lay a finger on their lying client, Kakashi made his appearance. Looking at his team, he was glad to see no one was surprised to see him. After noticing this, he said, "Good work. Your teamwork was flawless, and you managed to pull some information out of your captured enemies, very shinobi-like," the man said, making all three of his students swell with pride. Some more so than others, such as Sasuke for example. Turning to the bridge builder, Kakashi began to tear into the man before pulling the reasons why he lied about the mission level before threatening to end his life for lying to him. Naruto was up for beating the shit out of the man for lying to him before completing the mission, but what Kakashi was suggesting would put him out on the streets. C-class missions didn't come cheap, and Naruto needed the money to pay his landlord. Stopping Kakashi from terminating their contract, Naruto said, "Kakashi, you heard the man. The wave won't survive without the bridge, and I don't know about you guys, but I know how harsh the world can be, and that's something no one should experience. Therefore, I say we complete the mission and bump up the price later," before turning to his teammates. Sasuke was ready and showed it in his cocky smirk, while Sakura looked a bit less decisive. Weighing the options, the pros being that she could impress Sasuke and get stronger to beat her rival, outweighed the cons, which were dying or being maimed beyond repair with her logic. Nodding at Naruto, the said boy turned to Kakashi, who was still edging for his kunai knife. Letting out a sigh, the man turned to Tazuna before saying, "I've been overruled, but this mission is now considered an A-class mission. You better be able to pay later," Kakashi said, leaving one final threat, before turning to his team. "From here on out, we have to be on full alert. The two you just faced were the Demon Brothers of the Mist and were of the Chunin rank. With that in mind, the next person we encounter will be at least Jonin, so are you sure you still want to continue?" Kakashi asked, looking intently at his team. He remembered what happened to his team when they went in over their heads, and it was the reason he was now short one teammate and now wore a crudely made eye patch. Crossing deeper into the mist-covered field, Kakashi knew his students were on edge, and frankly they should be, knowing that a Jonin could pop out at any moment from the mist. Hearing the faint whistle of something slicing through still air, Kakashi yelled, "Get down!" while taking Tazuna and Sakura with him. "Damn! I knew there was something wrong with that rabbit Naruto almost killed earlier," Kakashi said to himself as he got up and drew a kunai. It was the middle of summer and a snow-white rabbit had just happened to cross their path, but being so deep into his book, Kakashi waved it off as an escaped lab animal. Cursing himself for being careless, he looked up at the giant Zanbato that was stuck in a nearby tree. Kakashi couldn't but feel a little fear creep into him. A mist swordsman this far out? Damn, I'm going to need my Sharingan. Gotta make this fast, the silver-haired Jonin thought to himself as the mist cleared, revealing his opponent. The man in what looked like cow skin clothing turned to Kakashi before speaking out. "Sharingan Kakashi, it will an honor to kill you," the man said, while Sasuke said to himself, "Sharingan Kakashi," before Kakashi cut in saying, "So my reputation precedes me, Demon of the Mist, Momochi Zabuza." Zabuza let out a laugh before saying, "Anyone who reads their bingo book would know of you, but for you to know me will make it an even greater honor when I cut off your head with Kabikari Hucho, head-chopping cleaver, while sending out some killing intent." In an instant he had broken their formation to protect Tazuna, and in a faint whisper Zabuza said, "Muon Satsujin Jutsu, silent homicide technique." But Kakashi stopped his sword swing with his kunai before he could kill Tazuna. Unfortunately for Zabuza, Kakashi wasn't done, and with a war cry he launched the silent killer into the nearby lake. Rising from the depths, Zabuza said, "Kirigakure no Jutsu," just loud enough to frighten the genin and worry Kakashi, who raised his head, revealed his Sharingan eye, effectively pissing off Sasuke. How does someone outside the Uchiha clan have a Sharingan, while I can't awaken mine? The boy thought while Zabuza said, "Good job Kakashi, now take off the kid gloves so when I kill you, you know that there was absolutely nothing you could have done," his voice bouncing from every direction. A true master of hidden mist swordsmanship. This should be a challenge, the Kopinen thought to himself, before he felt Zabuza's breath on his neck. Where should I hit first, the heart, kidney, lungs, or brain? Zabuza said while hiding in the mist, just naming a few of the fatal places to be hit. Dodging the swing. Kakashi ducked down before driving forward and stabbing Zabuza in the stomach, and he would have killed the man if it wasn't a Mizu Bunshin, mist clone. The bridge builder. Kakashi thought before making his way to Tazuna and stopping the blow that would have ended the man's life, but put him in position for Zabuza to return the favor for the kick Kakashi had landed earlier. Watching the man sink, Zabuza went on top of the water to make sure the Jonin was dead when Kakashi copied Zabuza's earlier appearance and burst through the water before placing his kunai to the missing mist nin's neck. "You lose Zabuza," said a very wet and very pissed Kakashi. To his surprise though, all Zabuza did was laugh before saying, "You fool," instantly putting Kakashi on guard as the man dissolved into water and was put into a Suiro no Jutsu, water prison, within the seconds that followed. "Shit Kakashi, you really ed up here, get the children to run with the bridge builder and maybe they can escape," were the only thoughts that ran through Kakashi's mind when he was captured. Relaying his message to his genin cell, Kakashi found it shocking when they threw his, "Those who don't follow orders are trash, but those who desert family are worse than trash," and fought off Zabuza's Mizu Bunshin as they came ashore. Keying in on the man through the watery cell, Kakashi could hear Zabuza say, "You can't escape me, you will die just like your sensei here," before going off to spew about how he kicked his whole class to become genin. The reactions were predictable as Sakura bit back the bile coming out of her mouth, while her two teammates just suppressed their fear. Kakashi watched what looked like a lost cause when the blonde surprised him by destroying the clone with his new sword. Turning his gaze back to Zabuza, all Kakashi could think was, "Shit," when he saw the maniacal gleam in the mist swordsman's eyes. Getting a Mizu Bunshin to hold Kakashi's prison, Zabuza stepped forward before saying, "So we have a swordsman, come forth and let's see if that wooden toy isn't just for show." Cursing himself for bringing the sword, Naruto met the man's challenge and using some of his chakra control he learned from the elder Sasuke, Naruto made his way to where Zabuza was waiting. Sasuke stood in awe at his teammate's ability and was about to say something when he heard a tap. Instantly his mind raced and then he got his answer. Waiting for Naruto to disappear into the mist, the boy waited until he heard the second sign to complete the plan. Naruto knew he couldn't win this fight. Zabuza had years of training and was one of the legendary 7 mist swordsmen, and all Naruto had was a bit of practice swinging the sword as he got used to the weight. Wrapping his Jushu chakra around the sword, Naruto launched an air slash at Zabuza who dodged and went on the offensive. It was a one-sided from that point as Zabuza who was using a combination of taijutsu and kenjutsu to beat the boy into submission pummeled Naruto into submission. The best Naruto could hope for was that he could block all the sword slashes, and endure the painful shots to the body and face. It wasn't long before Zabuza got cocky, and as soon as that happened, Naruto struck. Slipping past one of the man's sloppier sword swings, Naruto let out a war cry that signaled Sasuke to attack while Naruto made an all-or-nothing slash on Zabuza. He missed and when Zabuza went in for the kill, Sasuke's Fuma Shuriken came into the scene. Jumping over the shuriken, Zabuza blocked the second one hiding in its shadow when he noticed the first one that had gotten past him and had just finished destroying the clone that was holding Kakashi. Watching the Kopinen come out of his prison ready for round 2, Zabuza couldn't help but think, "Oh shit," as Kakashi charged. Naruto managed to get back to his team, before collapsing onto the ground. Still conscious, he looked up at Sasuke before giving him a thumbs up and thinking, maybe he's not such a prick after all, before falling into a nice, peaceful sleep. Meanwhile Kakashi had Zabuza on the ropes, and while both of their Suiryuden no Jutsu, Water Release, Water Dragon Blast, clashed, Kakashi passed Zabuza in Handseal's speed making a Suiden. Daibakufu no Jutsu. Water release. Great waterfall, before the man, surprising the shit out of him before launching him into a nearby tree. Chasing after his fallen prey, Kakashi was about to go in for the kill, when several needles pinned Zabuza in the neck and a hunter nin appeared before stabbing Zabuza in the right side of his chest. Weird, Kakashi thought while bringing down his Hiat over his Sharingan, trying to preserve some chakra before he passed out. The hunter nin turned to Kakashi before saying, "My partner and I have been searching for Zabuza for months. Thanks to you, we were able to capture him today," and with that a shorter masked nin appeared. But unlike the first nin, this one had ebony hair opposed to the first one's ivory hair. "Thank you," the shorter dark-haired one said, before picking Zabuza up and disappearing in a swirl of leaves with his partner. Damn, Zabuza got away, Kakashi said to himself before he ran out of energy and fell to the ground. The last thing he heard was Sakura rushing to him and Sasuke grumbling about having to carry both him and Naruto. He was in the body again. The weird feeling of near-infinite chakra coursing through him was beginning to become normal, as Naruto looked at his surroundings. There were no blood-red skies of ancient Japanese castles this time. This time, Naruto was somewhere he could recognize. To his right was the forest where he practiced with the third and learned the basics of chakra control. In front of him was the lake he almost drowned in training to water walk and would have if the older man hadn't saved him before showing him the proper way to float over the water. However, as Naruto looked over the surroundings, going off his mental checklist of their importance, Naruto noticed something for the first time. He saw smoke. It was then that his body decided it was time for it to turn around. When it did so, Naruto saw something that shook his very core. Konoha was ablaze, and surrounding the fire were fallen shinobi killed in very gruesome manners. The blackish fires keep spreading, and despite Naruto's protests, his body would not even try to use some of its vast chakra to put out the fires. Instead he ignited more fire, while destroying even more shinobi in a crimson flash. Utter hopelessness set in and Naruto just watched as his brothers in arms were killed by his hand. Why am I seeing this? Did I do this? Is this the reason I am hated? If so, I hate me's. But Naruto's train of thought stopped when he saw something familiar to him in his dreams. The giant toad was back, and on him was a blonde-haired man with him in his arms. So it couldn't have been me who did this, Naruto realized while watching the fight. His body had Gamabunta restrained and was about to make a strike at the fourth when he saw the blonde Hokage's smirk. The hand seals he had been doing since the start of the battle must have been completed, and with a leap, he saw the man come at himself with untraceable speed. When the fourth reappeared, he was shell of his former shell. The tanned skin he had gotten from countless hours of outside training was gone and replaced with a sick pale white, and the unmarred skin that proved his prowess in battle was now covered with countless runes. These runes were pulsating with chakra, and on closer inspection Naruto's, or whoever he was, mind concluded, Shinigami. A cold shiver went down Naruto as he felt all his omnipotent chakra being sucked into his natural body, but before he was completely gone, Naruto heard the Yondaime say, "Back to Makai with you, Kyubi. We can finish our fight there," before he felt waves of darkness take over. The Kyubi, the Yondaime, the Shinigami, these were the last things that went through Naruto's mind before the waves of darkness overtook his consciousness. "Got to get up," Naruto said while shaking the darkness in front of his eyes. With the dream still lingering in his mind, Naruto almost forgot how his battle ended. Instantly the calm demeanor faded and Naruto was on guard. 1. We were captured, and I am being kept alive to get answers or just to torture, or 2. We defeated Zabuza and the rest of this mission will be a breeze, Naruto concluded while waiting for his vision to adjust. Scanning the room with one eye, Naruto was about to let out a sigh when he caught Kakashi sitting in the corner of the room reading Icha Icha Paradise. Before Naruto could even think about what Kakashi may have been doing while he slept, the silver-haired ninja said, "I've just been here watching over you, Naruto," as if he could read the blonde's mind. "I'll figure out later if that's just his guilty conscience, or if he can just read minds," Naruto thought, swearing he heard Kakashi whisper, the latter, before the silver-haired ninja just giggled like a pervert and dug deeper into his book. It didn't take long for an irritated Naruto to get up, working on sheer willpower to get away from the blatant pervert, but as soon as Naruto was about to reach the door, Kakashi stopped him. For Naruto, it was a first to see their untouchable sensei stand in crutches, but it was even more shocking to see his serious expression. "I want to thank you, Naruto. You really saved me out there, and for the past 3 days I worried if that had cost you your life, the masked nin said, looking at the boy in the eye, and for the first time, Naruto realized how much his action had impacted the mission. I really did all that? No, Kakashi would have found a way out and he would have done just fine, right? Naruto thought to himself while contemplating of what Kakashi said was true or not. Well, at least it's not going to his head, Kakashi said silently while thinking of another one of his less humble students. Looking down at his student's doubt, Kakashi decided to tease the boy a little in hopes that he would come to his senses. Well, Naruto, don't let it go to your head, but with you we may have died on this mission, Kakashi said, but before Naruto could even open his mouth, Kakashi continued, nevertheless, even with your help, Zabuza is still alive and I bet anything that he will be gunning for you just as much as he was for me in our last fight. Therefore, I prepared a surprise for you, Kakashi said while limping out the room, leaving Naruto to wonder, and what might that be? Sitting down to breakfast, Naruto noticed neither Sasuke nor Sakura were present, but really didn't care seeing as he had more pressing matters on his mind. What is it that Kakashi wants to see me about? Does he know of my dream already? No, that can't be it. He would have to use the Sharingan. No, it is something else, but what? Naruto thought while playing with his food. Eventually, he finished and went to the forest designated by his sensei, ready to find out what Kakashi's surprise was really about. When he entered the clearing, he saw nothing out of the ordinary. Kakashi was reading his porn and his Sharingan was tucked safely behind his head, but before Naruto could make any more conclusions, Kakashi closed his little orange book and turned to Naruto. By the look in his eye, which was beyond serious, and Naruto's attention was completely on his sensei. Naruto, your actions in our encounter with Zabuza saved my life, but it also endangered yours. Zabuza will not underestimate you anymore and most likely will be gunning for you first before anyone else, save for myself, Kakashi said. As cocky as that sounds, I know it's true, Naruto thought while looking intently at his sensei. Zabuza would go for the strongest links in the chain before picking off the weaker ones, and that chain started with Kakashi. Letting what he said sink in, Kakashi then roused Naruto from his thoughts by saying, so that is why you are going to have to be stronger than the rest. Okay, that's a change after all the attention he showers the Uchiha with. I wonder if the ass-whopping Zabuza gave him knocked some sense into him. Naruto wondered while recalling all the times Sasuke got some extra practice after Kakashi dismissed both him and Sakura. The pink-haired girl never minded, because she trained with Kunai and Hinata in Genjutsu, and the fact that it was Uchiha Sasuke getting the attention. Naruto, on the other hand, was pissed beyond belief. Not only was it favoritism, but it also went against Kakashi's worse than trash speech. Kakashi, sensing Naruto's thoughts and surprise, chuckled a bit before saying, Naruto, you are powerful, unnaturally powerful for a child your age, and have managed to gain that power by yourself with only someone to point you in the right direction. I know I have been paying much more attention to Sasuke, but that is because he has never earned his power, but just takes from others, like most of his clan, Kakashi said, pausing while a far-off look covered his eyes. This caused Naruto to wonder, what could affect Kakashi this much other than Icha paradise? Naruto wondered while Kakashi came back to the living world. Kakashi shook his head a little before continuing with his speech. But you, Naruto, you who learned on your own, and it would be a waste for me as a teacher to make you become reliant on me as a teacher. Therefore, this is why I will point you in the right direction as Hokage-sama did before me. Hopefully you will work some of your magic and come up with something to help us in this next battle. Kakashi finished before standing up. Watching as Kakashi fumbled with his crutches, Naruto thought to himself, I guess that makes sense, but then why does he still baby Sasuke? Decided to save that conversation for later, Naruto just shook his head and watched Kakashi stand before him crutchless. Now, I will show you what separates Genin from Jonin, Kakashi said before a strained look crossed his face. Naruto was watching patiently, and when nothing happened he was about to ask Kakashi what he was doing when the copy nin spoke out. Come at me, Naruto. If you can hit me once, then you will be ready for the next step. Naruto made no outward response to Kakashi's words, but in his head he was ranting, not another test. Damn, he's seen most of my techniques already, so surprise is out. How can I land a hit? Naruto thought before making a clone and switching with it while it charged Kakashi. When the two clashed, Kakashi didn't bat an eyelash as usual, but instead of the clone missing a punch and swiftly destroyed, it looked as if it ran straight into a bug zapper. How did he do that? Kakashi didn't even move and my clone was destroyed. Is this what he's talking about? The power of a Jonin? Naruto thought while trying to formulate a plan to get past Kakashi's newly dubbed clone zapper. So far he was coming up blank, and any way his clones came at him they would be destroyed, where it was underground or over it. Naruto was about to pull out the big guns when Kakashi spoke up. Naruto, you just have to land one hit and we can proceed. I'd hurry though because this part is the easiest and Zabuza will probably be ready to fight within 2 weeks, Kakashi said while reading his book. Shit, I need to hit him now, but how? He zaps clones and by the looks of it I won't be getting anywhere near him to use chakra shaku, Degeki or anything taijutsu related. Therefore, it's long range I need, but he's already seen chakra shaku. Tama. No, I need something new and original, something he wouldn't expect me to do, Naruto thought before a wicked grin crossed his face. He's expected me to think Naruto-like, but I wonder what would happen if I did something that had Sasuke written all over it? Naruto thought before jumping from his hiding spot along with about dozen other clones he was using to throw off Kakashi's perception on where he was. Kakashi didn't look worried though, he was confident his electrical field would stop the boy, and he was right, but what Kakashi didn't realize was that the real Naruto was in his blind spot and landed just as his clones hit the barrier. Let's see, how much of a pounding can this barrier can take? Naruto asked to no one in particular before unleashing his chakra shaku. Feeling Naruto's chakra spike, Kakashi turned around so see Naruto preparing to fire off a chakra shaku. Tama shot when something changed. Instead of one shot firing, the chakra in the center of the pentacle shot out across the 5 wisps of chakra that made the weaver, before launching from the ends of those. Now Kakashi was in a dilemma, either he could try and dodge this new jutsu, but his gut told him that Naruto had already accounted for that, or he could hope that his barrier was strong enough to hold all 5 of the shots. I guess there's only one way to find out, Kakashi concluded before taking the attack head-on, but instead of reading his book like the last times, Kakashi was actually concentrating on defending. The blue lightning darted in all directions trying to hold off Naruto's orbs of chakra, and it looked like Kakashi was going to win when the orbs suddenly popped. Looking at the dumbstruck Naruto, Kakashi figured that the attack was over. And good thing too, otherwise, I may have ended back up in the bedroom trying to wiggle my big toe. 1. Kakashi thought before trying to start his barrier again, when felt something tap his shoulder. Turning around to see Naruto with a chakra shaku, Degeki primed and ready. Kakashi smirked under his mask before saying, well, it seems you are ready. It was really cunning to use a new technique in the middle of a battle, knowing that your opponent had planned all your moves. It was stupid on my part to underestimate you, but risky on yours if it hadn't worked where you would be caught in my lightning web, Kakashi said, breaking down all the mini-lessons that they had gone through. Nodding, Naruto absorbed what Kakashi was saying before the silver-haired nin continued. One question though, where did you come up with the idea for that jutsu? Kakashi asked and was surprised to find out that Naruto used Sasuke's Housenka no Jutsu, Phoenix Fire Flower, as a basis for the multiple shots. Nodding at his student's ingenuity, Kakashi decided that wasn't too bad. Chakra Shaku, Gorogoro, Chakra Weaver, Scatter, I like it, before moving on to the real lesson. Okay Naruto, now that you have seen the strength of a Jonin, I need you to understand what you saw. What I just did was element manipulation, which is the usage of chakra to control one of the natural 5 elements. Fire, water, earth, lightning, and wind. I am naturally predisposed to lightning, so that is why I can mold lightning jutsu out of pure chakra with hand seals. You, on the other hand, are air, Kakashi said before explaining to Naruto what that meant. Your element is brutishly strong, while at the same time fast as lightning. So what I want you to do is to incorporate your wind element into your kenjutsu, seeing as it is already in your taijutsu, Kakashi said while watching Naruto closely. Confusion played clearly on his face, and for the first time, it looked as if Naruto was presented a question he didn't know the answer to. So HW'd I do this? The blonde asked, causing Kakashi to smack himself, forgot to give him an example, while pulling deep into his chakra reserves. Okay Naruto. I only have enough chakra to do this once, so pay attention. With that being said, Kakashi's face fell back into the strained look as the air began to crackle madly around him. His chakra became visible as blue lighting began to form, before becoming an off-white color. This is element manipulation. You are using your chakra to mimic the elements around you. For me, I think of my chakra as lightning dashing quickly from one spot to the next, and that helps me gain the control I need over lightning. For you and Asuma, the Hokage-sama's son and fellow Jonin, told me that when he uses his wind manipulation that he thinks of the wind as a sharpener around his trench knives, so maybe that will help you, Kakashi said while disengaging his electrical field and sitting down on the conveniently placed patch of grass under him. So sharpening your weapon with the wind, gotcha, Naruto muttered while pulling his Jushu chakra. If the element manipulation was really what he was doing this whole time with his Kenshoken, then maybe this would be easier than he thought. 3 days later, okay, not as easy as I thought, Naruto said to himself while trying to get his chakra to form at his will. The wind-based training had been going well, according to Kakashi, but for Naruto all he had been doing was making a fool of himself. The wind element didn't take as much chakra control as something like water, but the grasp Naruto needed over his chakra was greater than what he had. Naruto figured it had to be the Kyubi's chakra inside him making it hard, seeing as it alone made up 99% of his chakra, which just about 2% of that was usable. Even then that chakra was more than enough to double Kakashi's chakra reserves along with Sasuke's and Sakura's combined. Pulling the chakra in the circle, Naruto abandoned the idea of sharpening his weapon with chakra for now and was just trying to do simple circle motions he had seen the wind do while making whirlwinds and hurricanes. So far he was having little success, seeing as all he could muster was a small gale spinning around him that wouldn't even deter a kunai if thrown at him. Therefore, after about a day Kakashi had Naruto go tree climbing with his team to focus his chakra before trying, in private, with him to master element manipulation. This is too easy, Naruto thought to himself while running up and down his tree, trying to focus his control to a finer point. Kakashi suggested walking on kunai if that was too easy, so Naruto jabbed his whole stock of kunai into the tree with points sticking out to get a better exercise. Needless to say, Sasuke was pissed that Naruto not only could literally run circles around him in tree climbing, but was on to a harder and more complex method, and it looked like he would get that before he even finished normal tree climbing. Why am I so weak? I will never kill him if I can't even climb this tree, Sasuke said to himself while running toward the tree again. Only this time he didn't go higher, but instead was launched off the tree a whole 5 feet shorter than his last attempt. What? Sasuke ranted, getting angrier by the second as he seemed to only get worse. Sakura watched from the branch with a bit of pity in her eye but remained quiet after what happened the first time she tried to help. Sasuke told her to go somewhere and don't hold him back. Pouting a bit, Sakura just watched while saying to herself, I'll wait until he has sulked a bit until I help, before making her way down and back up again, too. A week later, Sasuke had finally gotten tree climbing down, and with that complete, he was demanding Kakashi to teach him more jutsu, which left Naruto in a pickle, for without Kakashi to constantly supervise his training, Naruto fell back on what he saw wind do naturally. With that, Naruto had gotten the pushing out and drawing in force of the wind, and with that he could speed up kunai flying in the air, slow them down, and with a bit more chakra control, its flight. Now, Naruto was moving on to more useful abilities like making a shield from his chakra. So far the only way I can get enough spin to block an attack is by moving my hand while I'm manipulating chakra. Let's see if it's good enough, Naruto thought to himself while summoning a few shadow clones. Each clone was holding a kunai and without warning, they attacked. The 4 kunai closed in on Naruto faster than normal. Seems as if the clones are using wind manipulation too. Good, I need all the practice I can get, Naruto said to himself while making a large full circle in the air and deflecting the kunai. The process wasn't perfect, but it got the job done, and Naruto was eager to see how well he could use his defensive abilities. With a poof, 20 clones appeared and Naruto smirked. This should do for now, Naruto thought to himself before his smirk spread to a wicked grin and he started deflecting the blows left and right. 3 days later, it had almost been 2 weeks from their encounter with Zabuza, and Kakashi couldn't help but think, are we ready? That one little question caused more gray hairs to appear on Kakashi's already silver head. Not like anyone notices, right? Kakashi thought to himself before getting back to the task. Sasuke had grown much during the 13 days they had been here. With a bit more control, he could start the boy on element manipulation, but without the control, Sasuke was likely to end up burning himself to cinders if he started now. Our hope rests with you, Naruto, Kakashi said to himself, before drilling more tips into the Uchiha's head on how to use Kaden. Ryuka no Jutsu. Fire release. Dragon fire technique. Nodding. Sasuke went back to burning more tree trunks while Kakashi's shadow clone checked in on Sakura. The girl's progress was staggering, at least for the one who would be considered the weak link. I guess Sakura took it upon herself not to slow the team down. Good, we need more kunoichi like her, Kakashi said to himself while watching the effects of her genjutsu with his Sharingan eye. Like most genjutsu, hers was invisible to all, except those with special dojutsu, but unlike most, Sakura was far more advanced with her genjutsu. Watching with transfixed fascination, Kakashi saw Sakura disappear, before reappearing at a nearby tree and making a slash through the air. Nothing spectacular, to the untrained or Sharingan-ed eye, that is. Was that Kunare's Magen? Jubaku Satsu, demonic illusion. Tree bind death? Kakashi thought with alarm. For a genin handle, such an advanced technique was alarming, and what made matters worse was that Kakashi knew he hadn't taught her anything and this skill was the work from another. Maybe I should take my own advice and stop playing favorites, Kakashi thought before going to check up on his last student. When Kakashi arrived, he immediately noticed something was off. Then again, gashes in the ground and turned over trees tend to draw suspicion. Following the path of destruction, Kakashi found himself at a cliff overlooking the small town, and that's where Naruto was training, with about 100 clones. 3. Kakashi watched as his blonde student used his element manipulation to block kunai in midair, launch the weapons back at the clones circling him, and make air's lashes in the same way he did in Zabuza's fight. Wow, who would have guessed that a student could go this far on their own, Kakashi thought while reminiscing back to the small hints he gave Naruto. Flashback. Kage Bunshin helps speed up the process, and remember, try to find a way to wrap your mind on how your element works, was all Kakashi said before going to train Sasuke and left Naruto standing with a contemplative scowl on his face, thinking of ways to wrap his mind around his element. End flashback. Wow, that wasn't much at all, Kakashi said to himself, while watching the shadow clones dwindle around Naruto, until it was one-on-one. Judging by the clone's appearance, it was in charge of his fallen brethren and he was able to take more than one blow unlike the other shadow clones. He can reinforce his clones already, Kakashi thought, remembering the only man who could sustain the constant strain of sending chakra to clones and keeping them reinforced. Maybe a little of the Fourth's legacy was imparted to Naruto when he sealed the Kyubi's chakra inside the boy, Kakashi concluded while watching the fight draw out to its last seconds. Naruto had just jumped over the last shuriken that the clone had and used his Jushu chakra with his elemental manipulation to catch the projectiles and launch it back at the boss clone, Taisho Bunshin, who just whirled some of his Jushu chakra around and created a barrier like the one Naruto had done earlier to deflect the flying blades. Landing, Naruto positioned himself in his makeshift sword stance he had grown comfortable with using. Over the 2 weeks, Naruto had gone from a clumsy fool with a sword to a wannabe mist samurai after going through countless ambushes by his clones, and learning to be much more graceful with his sword. It's a start, Kakashi said to himself while thinking of a few people he could unload Naruto off to who was able to teach him a few things about swordplay. Turning back to the battle, Kakashi heard Naruto yell, "Teshirai! Kukagiri! Air raid! Air slash!" and Kakashi watched as the clone did the same. The effect was instant as two bands of concentrated chakra left their wooden swords and met in midair. The clash went on for minutes until the real Naruto's attack finally won over and cut the clone in two. Looking at the floating clone with a smirk, Naruto saw it return the gesture, before he fell to his knees. That took up way too much chakra, Naruto complained to himself before trying to think of a way to reduce the chakra needed to make the Teshirai Kukagiri. However, before he could get any farther in his thoughts, Kakashi appeared. "I see you have come a long way in your element manipulation, Naruto," Kakashi said, trying to break the ice. Inside, the Jonin was a bit guilty for neglecting two of his students in favor of one, but it had to be done. Sasuke must know how to protect the Sharingan, Kakashi said to himself while looking down at the boy. Naruto was a bit pissed now that Kakashi wanted to show up when he didn't need his help, and Naruto let it show by saying, "Yeah, no thanks to you, Kakashi-sensei," while paying special interest to his so-called sensei's name. "I guess I deserve that," Kakashi told himself before trying to continue his intended conversation. "Zabuza will be ready for a rematch soon, So be ready and watch your back when I'm not around, Kakashi said before leaving. Staring at the spot where Kakashi poofed away, Naruto said to himself, when are you ever around Kakashi? Before taking a well-deserved break. The next day, Naruto woke up to hear Tsunami yell, "Inari, stay back." Jumping out of bed, Naruto grabbed his wooden katana, before making his way out the window and onto the roof. Looking down on the scene, Naruto's mind began sorting through the options: hostage situation, 2 thugs, and 1 whiny brat. Naruto said to himself, remembering his argument with Inari over if he should fight or die. Fight, of course, Naruto said before hopping down from his hiding place and landing soundlessly onto the ground below. Stalking around his prey, Naruto waited for Inari to attack, and when the boy did, Naruto quickly did Kawarimi to trade places with the boy before meeting swords with the samurai, who were so shocked at the change that they didn't sense his Taisho Bunshin boss clone behind them, until it was too late. Now with 2 hostages tied up to one of the frames on the house, Naruto left Inari and Tsunami and raced toward the bridge, hoping he wasn't too late. The bad omen Naruto felt only got worse when Naruto saw the thick mist rolling over the bridge. Shit, I'm late, Naruto said, berating himself for sleeping in. I hope that I can make it in time, Naruto thought to himself while making his way to where he felt his Jushu chakra brush up against Sasuke's and Sakura's. However, on the way there he felt something that was very wrong. Sasuke's chakra was too large, but then again maybe it wasn't Sasuke's chakra. Making his way farther into the mist, Naruto reached where Sasuke's chakra was the strongest, and when he noticed that he was in the wrong place, it was already too late. Kimimaro of the Kagaya clan said a monotone voice before a white flash caught Naruto's eye. Instinct kicked in, and without missing a beat, Naruto's hand formed a circle, changing the air currents, which stopped the white projectiles from tearing into his skull. Naruto readied his sword and looked at his opponent. The white-haired teen was as emotionless as a hyuga, and was dressed in a thin sleeveless shirt that was dark blue and long pants that were also the same color. Looking at his gloved hands that were pointed at him, Naruto's gut instantly told him to be on guard whenever they were pointed at him. Watching his opponent lower his arms and begin to speak, Naruto instantly felt on edge when Kimimaro boy's mouth did any more than necessary. He's like a statue, Naruto thought while he heard the boy say, not many survive my introduction. Well, seeing as you know my name, maybe you should tell me yours. Naruto looked at Kimimaro, who still didn't have any emotion on his face. Suppressing a shiver, Naruto said, Uzumaki Naruto, before dashing forward. Once in range, another white flash blocked Naruto's horizontal sword slash. Naruto's wooden sword pressed against Kimimaro's white sword, which upon closer inspection Naruto realized was his bone. How? Yeah, he's of the Kagaya clan. This must be the Shikatsumiku, dead bone pulse. But the Hokage's file only state they used weapons no other person could wield. It never said that they used their bones, but Naruto soon realized that the few people who came back with the information must not have had a direct confrontation with the bone user, seeing as he was quickly overpowered by the boy's Kenjutsu and Taijutsu combinations. Blocking the heel of the bone boy's foot with his sword, Naruto used the power from Kimimaro's kick to put some distance between the two. Naruto wiped some blood from his chin, and rubbed his throbbing face, trying to figure out a way to approach the bone user. Kimimaro's fist is like stone and his taijutsu is way better than mine. I guess it will come down to ninjutsu, Naruto thought while smirking, just how I like it. Kimimaro was curious of Naruto's kenjutsu style. He protects no vital areas with that stance, but when I go in for the kill his arms are already in place for the parry and counter attack. I must know what teaching this is, Kimimaro thought before asking Naruto, your kenjutsu style, what is it? Looking at the boy who had asked a question out of genuine curiosity in the middle of a battle, Naruto shrugged and laughed to himself while thinking, well, I've seen weirder things happen, before brushing thoughts of his porn-reading sensei away. It's called Teshirai, Air Raid. I made it myself, Naruto said with pride filling his voice. This was something he had created on his own, and it was rough around the edges, but with a little practice and guidance it would be something to be feared, or at least that was what Naruto thought. Kimimaro just raised an eyebrow at the name before asking, and why, but he never got to finish, seeing as Naruto sprung into action. This time, instead of making a regular sword slash, Naruto yelled, Teshirai, Kukagiri, and a wave of wind-orientated chakra shot out from his wooden sword, forcing Kimimaro into the air. What seemed like a flawless dodge quickly changed to something else when Naruto smirked and said quietly, "Let's see how well you do when you are in my territory," and with that a black and blue flash shot up from behind Naruto. Kimimaro saw the flash and recognized the flash as Naruto, or at least a clone of the blonde. The blur pasted him and quickly stopped above him before coming down sword first and yelling, "Teshirai! Kukagiri!" Another wave of chakra was launched at Kimimaro, who didn't have any way to dodge. The white-haired boy didn't seem panicked and just met the wave of chakra with his bone sword. The forces clashed and Kimimaro suffered vacuum cuts around his sword arm from the whirling air, and when Kimimaro heard another, "Teshirai! Kukagiri!" from behind, he saw the real Naruto launching another wave of wind-manipulated chakra at him. With practiced ease, Kimimaro popped out his forearm bone and caught it before blocking Naruto's chakra. Both Naruto closed in after their Teshirai Kukagiri jutsu had been defeated and met their wooden sword against Kimimaro's bone sword. The white-haired boy just held his defense while they fell towards the ground. Naruto and his Taisho Bunshin gritted their teeth while focusing the wind around them to spin in opposite manners, trapping Kimimaro in the middle of two rotating cyclones. Naruto savored the look of surprise on Kimimaro's face when the wind started to tear into him as Naruto and his clone pushed off of the boy right before they hit the ground, but not before shooting a final Teshirai Kukagiri each. Landing on opposite sides of the felled boy, Naruto and his clone manipulated the air around them to lift the mist that had fallen around Kimimaro. To their surprise, his body was unmarred and the remnants of his sleeveless shirt were ripped up, leaving a bare chest Kimimaro. With looking at either of them, Kimimaro asked, "That jutsu, what was it?" Naruto, being used to the shinobi's unusual habits, answered, "My Taisho Bunshin, handy really, but then again, you've seen what he can do," Naruto said while smirking with his clone. Kimimaro remained silent for a moment before saying, "Well, Uzumaki-san, you are the first person in a long time to have pushed me to this point. 30% of my power is usually sufficient to win most battles I encounter, but it seems I must double my efforts for you, so get ready," Kimimaro said before pulling out the bones for his arm and collarbone. The one of the short bone swords lay on the ground, forgotten by Kimimaro, who chose a battle scythe instead. The ivory scythe was as long as three of Kimimaro's short forearm swords and had two blades, one coming from the collarbone and the other an extension from his elbow. Spinning the bone scythe over his head, Kimimaro dashed toward the real Naruto and would have taken his head if the Taisho Bunshin hadn't gotten there first. Blocking the scythe with two hands, the clone had maneuvered his wooden sword between the two scythe blades and was pushing up with all his strength. Kimimaro saw the clone was defenseless and was about to sever the clone from his legs when Naruto stopped the stab with his wooden sword. "Thanks, boss," the clone said, and Naruto grunted, telling him that he heard him and was kind of busy. Kimimaro was holding his clone at bay while launching his own attack, Tsubaki no Mai, Dance of the Camellia, which had Naruto struggling to keep up with the near-invisible sword stabs. After the first few dozen strikes, Naruto knew that Kimimaro would win in the end and decided to use a chakra shaku tate and block the remaining strike while giving him and his clone some time to get out of the death trap. The plan worked and the duo put some space between them and Bone User. Looking at one another, the two Naruto knew that they wouldn't win unless they disarmed the boy, but how could they disarm someone who used their bones as weapons? "You could use me," said a voice in the back of Naruto's mind. Shaking the thought away, Naruto's blackout gave Kimimaro enough time to overwhelm his clone. The Taisho Bunshin had turned his body to block the scythe swing that had gone over his head and had attacked from behind while making constantly circles with his free hand to stop Kimimaro's Tsubaki no Mai from the front. Without a word, Naruto closed the gap between him and his clone in distress, before throwing a chakra shaku Degeki at Kimimaro's face. The boy didn't even flinch when the fist connected, and to further surprise Naruto, he said through what was supposed to be a broken jaw, "Karamatsu no Mai, Dance of the Larch," before several spines spurt from his body. The spine from the cheekbone clashed with Naruto's wind-based chakra, giving the boy enough time to move his hand before he lost it. Backing up, Naruto launched a Teshirai Kukagiri, cutting through Kimimaro's scythe and short sword. The clone escaped without a word and they were back to square one. Naruto and his clone were trying to think of ways to get past the bone defense, but each idea was a dead end. "Use me," the voice said again, And Naruto ignored it once again, but unlike last time he remained focused and saw Kimimaro dash forward while saying, "Yanagi no Mai. Dance of the Willow." The bone extensions on his body grew longer and before two pike-like bones erupted from his palms. Dodging the open palm strike, Naruto and his clone fought the Shikatsumiku user who was now using all-out taijutsu mixed with a few spear-like techniques from his open palm strikes. Sweeping low with his pike, Kimimaro forced the two into the air and was about to go in for the kill with both of his pikes when the Teisho Bunshin unleashed a massive amount of wind-manipulated chakra, pushing Naruto out of the way, but left himself open from Kimimaro's death strike. Naruto felt the ping of a mental connection being severed by death before rage took over. Summoning more Jushu chakra than ever before, Naruto unleashed his strongest Teshirai Kukagiri ever. The air slash met Kimimaro's dense armor bones and to his surprise, a bit of the chakra got through and made a small cut on his neck. Those bones were at least twice as strong as the bones I use for weapons. The boy's strength rises when in emotional distress. Maybe he is ready for the next level, Kimimaro thought while telling Naruto, "I've underestimated you yet again, Uzumaki-san, and again I am forced to use more of my true power. Tessenka no Mai. Suru. Dance of the Clematis. Vine," and with that he took out his spine. "This is 80%. Let's see how well you fare at this level," Kimimaro said before dashing forward with the segmented sword whipping through the air behind him. Naruto saw the spine sword and whipped his Jushu chakra to full power, adding wind manipulation to the chakra, causing a small hurricane to surround him. Dashing forward to meet Kimimaro, Naruto felt the boy enter his hurricane and approach the 3-meter-long eye. Kimimaro reached the eye in time to face another one of Naruto's supercharged Teshirai Kukagiri, but unlike last time, Kimimaro nimbly dodged the air slash and started his elegant dance. Naruto was forced to use the hurricane that surrounded him as a shield when Kimimaro's blows became too numerous to dodge. Using guerrilla tactics, Naruto would dash from one end of the hurricane to another and strike Kimimaro, who was stuck in the eye, before retreating into the storm walls. The strategy was working until Kimimaro started predicting Naruto's attack pattern and would parry his blows before Naruto could make a clean hit and escape. "Shit, if this keeps up he will start countering me soon," Naruto thought while circling his opponent under the cover of his chakra-created storm. Another Teisho Bunshin was out of the question, seeing as his reserves were lower than half his max, and making a Teisho Bunshin would just be a waste of chakra. "Maybe I could," but Naruto's train of thought was interrupted by the voice yet again. "Use me, it is the only way," the voice said again. Naruto was about to object when he heard Sasuke scream. "Your friend will not last much longer if you delay. You need to act now," the voice said. "How? I don't even know what you are," Naruto said, desperate to help his teammate. Sasuke had never been his best friend, but Kakashi's speech was sticking out in Naruto's mind like a sore thumb. Reluctantly, Naruto gave in to the voice's persuasion and was sent the seals and immediately recognized them. "No, I can't use that. I won't unleash the Shinigami," Naruto said to the voice, whose chakra flared a little. The cold chakra was familiar, but unlike last time he sensed his own chakra mingled with it. The Shinigami took Naruto's silence as a chance to explain what really was happening. "I can see why you are a reluctant child, but you must understand that our last encounter was merely a test, and seeing as you passed, you have been given the right to be my partner in battle." The Shinigami baited, waiting for Naruto's response. Naruto thought it over until he noticed that Sasuke's chakra started dwindling faster than ever. The panic set in and Naruto made his decision. "Okay, I give. Just help me save my team," Naruto thought to the Shinigami. Running through the hand seals, the cold chakra rushed through Naruto's veins and slowly all of his wounds that weren't healed by his chakra instantly vanished and the dark robes of death replaced Naruto's tattered clothes. Now was that so bad? Well, whether or not it was, you are now the partner of Tenkan, and rule number 1 when partnered with Tenkan is, we never lose, Tenkan said, causing Naruto to smirk. Feeling the cold chakra flowing through his body, Naruto dashed out of the hurricane faster than he could ever do before. Kimimaro hadn't become flat-footed in his wait for Naruto, but was in fact extending his senses while waiting for the boy to make his move. The instant Naruto dashed out of his protective winds, Kimimaro knew and was able to track his movements. The only problem was that he couldn't keep up. Doing the best to minimize the damage, Kimimaro reinforced his bone armor with more chakra, but Naruto's new katana was more than a match for that. Blood seeped into his sleeveless shirt and Kimimaro looked down in shock. Is this his true power? Has he been holding back this whole time? Kimimaro thought as he overwhelmed by Naruto's new form. Even with his graceful movements and deadly precision, all Kimimaro seemed to hit was the flapping black robe that shrouded Naruto's body. Finally, after stepping into a sword slash aimed for the stomach, Kimimaro positioned himself for the kill when he aimed for Naruto's temple. Seeing the segmented sword hit his katana and bend around the parry to hit his skull, Naruto's eyes widened before he felt a tingle in his chakra. Just before contact, a circular wind barrier formed beside his head blocking Kimimaro's blow, before the wind shot out pushing the boy away. Kimimaro looked at Naruto in shock for a split second before killing all emotion in his face and thinking, his skill level has shot up exponentially. Well, I guess I have finally found an opponent worthy of my full attention. Let's hope he can last more than a few minutes. Feeling a smirk worm its way onto his face, Kimimaro pushed his bone armor to full power and summoned his strongest bone to cover his arm. Naruto could only watch in morbid fascination as Kimimaro's body was covered with even longer bones, giving his appearance a more devilish look. The most noticeable change was in his left arm as a large bone covered it completely before condensing itself with chakra and spinning into a spear-like shape. Kimimaro just looked at Naruto while holding his segmented sword and readying his spear-like arm before telling Naruto, "This is 100% and you are the first opponent to see this since my rescue from the Kagaya clan mansion, and thus you are the first in years to receive the honor of dying to it." Naruto barely saw Kimimaro's charge, and even then he didn't have enough time to evade the spear's blow, but like last time, the Jushu chakra flared again, pushing the spear slightly to the left, moving the lethal attack into Naruto's shoulder and away from his heart. Blocking the sword's swipe at his head, Naruto felt his wind-manipulated chakra stop the sword yet again before pushing Kimimaro back with a howling blast of wind. How? I didn't do. Naruto thought while nursing the wound on his left shoulder. He was lucky it didn't hit his sword arm, and Tenkan was adamant when it came to telling Naruto that and what he did. You didn't, I did. And you should be thankful we are partners, or your so-called self-taught skills would have gotten you killed. But have no fear, we are still in this fight, Tenkan told Naruto, while Naruto just dodged and weaved through Kimimaro's blows, relying on Tenkan to use a windshield to divert any attacks that would have gotten through. And why do you think that? Because if you haven't noticed, this bone guy is at least twice as fast even with all that extra armor, which by the way is almost impossible to break, and he isn't pulling any punches, Naruto said to his soul partner before taking a bone-covered fist to the face. Spinning his body around to block Kimimaro's follow-up, Naruto countered the Bone Boy's move with a little of his Hake Kenshoken, only to have his wind-covered strike flow over Kimimaro's bones. See, that strike had loads of chakra in it and all it did was slid right over his bones, Naruto told Tenkan, losing more hope. The Shinigami soul remained silent while watching his host take the beat of his life, topping Zabuza's only because Kimimaro was around his age. After Naruto fell to the ground when Tenkan failed to stop Kimimaro's fist, the Shikatsumyaku user moved in for the kill, saying, "Goodbye Uzumaki-san. Tessenka no Mai. Hana. Dance of the Clematis. Flower." The long spear bone on Kimimaro's arm twisted into a drill, and Naruto could only watch as Kimimaro closed the distance between them with his drill leading the way. Naruto watched everything in slow motion, and at the last seconds before impact Naruto heard Tenkan say, "If you want to live, trust me." Naruto just nodded and said, "Tenkan. Kyubi, Divine Punishment, split into 9. The cold Shinigami chakra increased tenfold, and Naruto saw a man walk toward him from behind Kimimaro. The bone user didn't seem to notice the man wearing all black passing him, but to Naruto he stood out like Kyubi's chakra. Looking up, Naruto could see most of the man, but his face eluded him. Feeling energy rise from inside him, Naruto fought the darkness closing in on his vision and was able to hear the man say, "Well, about time you decided to accept my help," and bending down to help Naruto up. "Tenkan?" Naruto asked his Shinigami partner while standing on his own 2 legs. "Of course," the spirit answered before gripping Naruto's sword. Falling back, Naruto totally opened himself to the older man's guidance. With all the newfound energy coursing through him, Naruto thought, "There's no way we can lose now," before a dark light burst from him and his soul partner. Feeling the black chakra die down, Naruto set his eyes on Kimimaro before smirking. "Go get him. 5 minutes ago Haku fought fiercely with the Uchiha survivor and had a huge advantage over the boy with her near light speeds. Sasuke was resembling a pincushion more and more until he unlocked his Sharingan and was able to track her movements down to the slightest twitch, and even though he couldn't keep up he made it increasingly harder to land a hit that would incapacitate instead of just killing him and being done with it. Only if he would blink for a second, then I could knock him out and not kill the last Uchiha, Haku said to herself while making another sweep at the boy. The thought of killing the Uchiha and moving to help Zabuza or Kimimaro was beginning to get more and more appealing, but the thought of being hunted by Konoha's best for killing the last of their most precious clan dissuaded that thought completely. I was given the Uchiha because I am the most gentle. I must not kill him or it may be the end for me and my family, Haku thought before Sasuke's Gukaku nicked her leg, burning some of the clothes before it was put out by the speed of her flight. Landing in the safety of an ice mirror, Haku looked at the Uchiha with a newfound respect. He was a threat now and would be treated as such. Rushing out of her mirror in a blitz, Haku launched a dozen senbon at her opponent before coming in closer with a handful aimed for his throat. The attack would put him in a death-like coma and out of the fight, but not enough to kill him if she didn't mess up. Sasuke blocked her first wave of attack, and in a burst of uncanny speed and skill he pushed Haku's attack to the side and landed an earth-shattering fist to the girl's mask, sending a crack down the center and launching her through one of her ice mirrors. Sasuke smirked and looked down at the fruits of his labor. He had spent all his training time with Kakashi trying to master the watered-down version of his already watered-down Chidori, 1000 birds. Even though it can't cut through lightning, the extra punch was more than enough to win this battle and take me one step closer to defeating Itachi, Sasuke thought while slumping down to his knees. As of now, he had used up almost all of his chakra producing the weak Chidori, and the whole battle rode on if Haku could get up from the blow. After a few seconds passed, Sasuke figured Haku was either dead or out cold, so he dropped his guard, and that is when Haku struck. In a last-ditch effort, Haku bounced from shattered glass to her mirror positioned at the top of the ice ring and fired herself downwards, directly on top of the last Uchiha. Feeling the 3 senbon that pricked his neck, Sasuke tried to fight the darkness that was closing in from all sides. Sasuke made one final swing with his fading Chidori only to shatter the remains of Haku's mask with his fist before passing out. Looking at the boy who managed to put stars in her vision, Haku felt Kimimaro's chakra shoot up while Zabuza's dwindle. Kimimaro Nissan must be going full power. His opponent must be strong to push him to that. However, Zabuza's in danger. I must help him and then altogether we can tackle this larger threat. Kimimaro Nissan, hold on, I will bring help soon, Haku told herself before rushing off to help Zabuza with Copy Nin Kakashi. Kimimaro's bone drill had stopped about a yard away from Naruto, not because of his choice but because he had hit something. This something was a ring that floated around Naruto by some sort of advanced chakra control. The ring was jet black with a red streak running across the middle. In the red streak were 9 nodes. What these nodes did was a mystery to Kimimaro, but his senses told him to be wary and stay on guard. Looking past the ring, Kimimaro saw Naruto, who was standing behind his ring perfectly calm, and to his surprise Naruto was more than calm but was smirking as if the battle was already decided. Fighting the frown that was worming its way onto his face, Kimimaro told himself, I must remain calm. He is only trying to get in my head. This battle is mine, all I have to do is take it. With that in mind and a small breath, Kimimaro calmed his nerves before exhaling and charging. Naruto, on the other hand, was smirking about his new appearance. Gone were the tattered clothes from Kimimaro's bone blades and was now clad in a black battle vest, zipped to the top with 2 shuriken puches on his chest. Under his vest was a black short-sleeve shirt with bandages tied over both, and on his black cargo shorts were 2 large puches resting on his belt. Further down were black bandages wrapping around his legs, leading to his now black all-purpose ninja sandals. Looking himself over again, Naruto was impressed but decided to ask Tenkin, why such an overtone on black? You make me out to be an even larger angst case than Sasuke. The Soul Reaper just chuckled at the joke before saying, black is death's color, and seeing as you are my partner, the least you can do is wear the outfit. Flexing his tattooed arm, Naruto was glad to see that the black chain tattoo was gone, but before Naruto could ask where it went, he heard Tenkin say, you'll find out in time, but it's time for us to find out what the Kukakami, 9 war gods, can do, before pushing his chakra into the ring around them. Kimimaro watched as the 9 nodes sprang to life and from them sprouted black chains, and mounted on each of these chains were 9 unique weapons. Looking up, Kimimaro watched as the 9 weapons fanned Naruto from above, making a halo around the mini-death god. Feeling the calm around Naruto's aura snap, Kimimaro was forced to fall back when Naruto pushed forward yelling, "Kukakami! Eep! 9 war gods! Rapier!" The first of Naruto's 9 weapons came down from his halo above and struck at Kimimaro. An elegant rapier about a meter long and with a complex handguard decoration struck at Kimimaro faster than anything the boy had seen. Looking past the speeding steel, Kimimaro saw Naruto pushing his palm at him as if he was jabbing him with the rapier. Giving the slide a questioning look, Kimimaro barely had time to block when Naruto sent his free hand up and yelled, "Kukakami! Oh no! 9 war gods! Axe!" calling his second weapon. A giant axe fell from the halo with a black longer than the rapier and was equal to the length of staff that connected to it. Following Naruto's hand down, Kimimaro stopped the swing only to fall to the ground below him, crumbling under the pressure the blow caused. The chakra, like a strong gale, from the axe blew through the concrete and sent both Naruto and Kimimaro into the ocean below. Hitting the cold water below, Kimimaro immediately sent chakra to his feet and stabilized himself on top the water, expecting Naruto to do the same, but when he looked up, he saw that Naruto was not even touching the water, but in fact was floating over a spinning dual-bladed naginata. The staff in between the blade was no longer than 10 inches, but the blades themselves were both about 2 feet each. Watching Naruto dragging his hand from his side and pointed at him, Kimimaro watched the naginata mimic the action before Naruto yelled out, "Kukakami! Repuu! 9 war gods! Whirlwind!" and spinning of the weapon increased, causing a typhoon to shoot out from the handle. With nothing to attach himself to, Kimimaro was blown back and landed in the water before sinking to the bottom. Naruto landed on the water and his ring of weapons that surround him closed in tight around him, as if waiting for Kimimaro's next move. That was Kukakami's first set of weapons. It is called Shuki and they are the weakest set, Tenkan said, getting the reaction that he wanted. Naruto was shocked that this was the weakest form and vocalized it to Tenkan. Weakest? That can't be true, because it alone just destroyed Kimimaro. It may seem that way, but Kimimaro is skilled and this alone will only set him back until he figures out its pattern and then he will be back on top, Tenkan said in response to Naruto's claim. And on cue, Kimimaro appeared out to the water, dodging Naruto's rapier and axe before swinging his segmented sword at Naruto's naginata, wrapping it in the bones discs before Kimimaro went in for the kill with his bone spear. However, before Kimimaro could finish his attack, Naruto's hand shot forward as he yelled, "Kukakami! Sume! 9 war gods! Claw!" and another chained weapon came from the halo above. This time, the chain had a gauntlet mounted to it, and when it approached Kimimaro, the metal hand sprang open, revealing 5 pointed steel fingers that easily grasped Kimimaro's chest, opening him up for Naruto's follow-up. Spinning his free hand as if he were swing a chain, Naruto made a wide arc, dragging his next weapon from the halo above. This time it was a mace the size of his skull, but when Naruto cried out, "Kukakami! Sumashu! 9 war gods!" Smash! Causing the mace to bloat to the size of a boulder. The spiked ball crashed into Kimimaro's bone-protected side and sent the man packing again, but not before he sent his own present. His segmented sword ripped through the air like a snake and would have ended Naruto's life if Tenkan hadn't activated the next weapon himself. Kukakami. Ken, 9 war gods. Sting. The 6th weapon appeared from the halo, and saved Naruto's life. It was a sword, but unlike a normal double-edged sword, this one had an opening running down the middle just wide enough for the spines on Kimimaro's sword to fit. The discs slid all the way to the bottom where they hit the handguard and stopped. Naruto was about to ask what this did when a blast of pure chakra shot out from the middle of the sword, destroying the spine blade and burning Kimimaro's hand. Shuki is this set's title and they are your middle-class weapons. They are stronger than the Shuki but are much harder to use together. Tenkan finished his speech and told Naruto to return to the bridge where they would finish the fight. As soon as his foot touched down on the concrete, Naruto felt a wave of chakra build up from under him. Looking down, Naruto saw the bridge beneath him rip apart by bone trees and Kimimaro rising from out of the opening, yelling, "Sawarabi no Mai, Dance of the Young Ferns." Naruto had evaded the bone spires by hovering over his naginata, but when Kimimaro ran up the spike that he was standing on and yelled out, "Tessenka no Mai Hana," Naruto had little choice but to rely on Tenkan for help. "This is it, we are about to release the Kuki set of weapons. They're by far the strongest and by far the most dangerous to you. They're the only 3 weapons capable of reaping a living soul, so if you are accidentally struck with your own blade, your soul can be sent to the afterlife." Tenkan paused after telling Naruto all of this. With his eyes trained on Kimimaro, Naruto simply nodded, accepting the risks and knowing the consequences if he messed up. "Good, now say it with my Kukakami, Katana, 9 war gods." "Katana," Naruto whispered, and with a flash, Kimimaro and Naruto were standing atop on opposite sides of the bridge. Seconds passed and Naruto stood still in the position of execution, arm outstretched with an elegant katana similar to his original Zanpakuto mimicking his position. Kimimaro stood silent on the other end, arms stretched waiting for the outcome of the last clash. A shattering sound rung through the bone forest and Kimimaro looked down at his destroyed drill, not even able to voice his disbelief seeing as Naruto said in a low voice, "Kukakami. Heki. 9 war gods. Tear," and Kimimaro felt cold steel wrap around his body. Looking down, he saw a heavily serrated sword tearing through his bones, and in a flash the sword had ripped through his bone armor, tearing it from his body and leaving him bare for Naruto's next attack. "It's time to finish this. Kukakami. Minori, 9 war gods. Harvest," Tenkan shouted in Naruto's mind, pulling the last weapon from the halo above. The claymore floated above Naruto, and like all the other weapons, it was jet black from the 1-foot hilt to the half-circle blade that crowned the top of the double-bladed sword. And with blinding speed, Naruto appeared above Kimimaro, and in one clean stroke, Naruto brought the claymore down and was about to relieve Kimimaro of his head and soul when he felt someone enter the bridge. This soul was more than enough to divert the attention of Tenkan. Feeling his soul partner's attention leave Kimimaro, Naruto stopped his swing and asked, "What's wrong?" "There is another, his soul needs to be cleaned, now," Tenkan said, his voice raising at the end, before pushing Naruto to go find this dirty soul. Leaving an unconscious Kimimaro on the ground, Naruto left the bone forest and moved to find this dirty soul. Kakashi had never felt this much chakra at once, with the exception of Kyubi, but that was a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence. But this can't be human, Kakashi thought while the foreign chakra continued to pulsate before dying down to more reasonable levels. Calling out to Zabuza, Kakashi said, "Zabuza, we are both busy men and are short on time, so let's cut the games and finish this now," before whipping out a scroll from his torn jacket and smearing blood over the open paper. Grasping the bloody paper, Kakashi went through several hand seals and slammed his hands on the ground, ducking under Zabuza's swipe at his head and releasing his jutsu. Kachiyose. Doden. Suiga no Jutsu. Summoning. Earth releasing, tracking fang technique. In addition to that, the ground rumbled underneath Zabuza, who was retreating from his failed attack. Looking down, Zabuza saw the earth explode, revealing a team of ninja dogs. Before Zabuza could even form the seals for a Kawarimi, the dogs bit down on his body, holding him still for whatever Kakashi had planned. Kakashi walked into Zabuza's vision and stopped a few meters away from the mist nin. Running through the hand seals slowly, Kakashi told Zabuza, "It seems your mist can fool my eyes, but not my nose." Zabuza's eyes widened a bit when Kakashi's hand started buzzing before a bright blue chakra covered his hand. "This is my only original technique. The ultimate in assassination jutsu, Reikiri, lightning blade," and with that Kakashi dashed forward, preparing to send his hand through Zabuza's chest when he felt 3 prickles hit his lightning-covered hand. Looking down, Kakashi saw 3 senbon lounged in his hand and a gloved hand holding them in place. Looking at the unmasked hunter nin with singed clothes and hair, Kakashi looked into the face of Zabuza's own private hunter nin. He was shocked to see that the boy was really a girl. This gets more confusing by the second, Kakashi thought before charging his Reikiri to full power, electrocuting the hunter nin to unconsciousness and melding the disabling senbon in his hand. Recharging his Reikiri, Kakashi looked down at the unconscious girl and back at the seething Zabuza. Kakashi figured that this was his last chance to kill the mist nin when a large bone shot up out of the ground, freeing Zabuza of his confines and stopping his killing strike on Zabuza for the second time. "Damn it, Kakashi whispered to himself while watching his Reikiri fade. Even if he wanted to kill Zabuza now, he didn't have the chakra to do it. Looking at the mist nin who was carrying Haku on his shoulder, he also looked to be in no position to fight. However, before either man could call out a truce, a voice cut through the thick mist. So the demon of the mist fails to kill one lone Konoha nin and his kid team. You're losing your edge, Zabuza, the voice said. The man behind it, which revealed Gatu's frail form, was standing in front of a small army. The battle-thirsty men stood ready, and when Gatu said, "Triple is what I will pay the man who brings me Zabuza's head," the mob roared in approval. Getting set for the charge, the largest man let out a war cry before a serrated blade ripped through his chest and before all of his men pulled out his rib cage. Morale fell like a wounded bird, and the Shining Ami's cold chakra seeped through the mist, chilling their bones and leaving them shaking husks of their once battle-ready selves. Slowly Naruto used Kukakami to pick off the men one by one until only Gatu remained. Looking left and right, Gatu saw that his army was gone and that he was alone in the mist. Straining his eyes, he saw a figure that was walking towards him, and when it came into the clearing, he could have sworn he was looking into the face of death. Naruto stood over the cowering man with his claymore poised for the death blow. While looking into Gatu's eyes, Naruto said in a cold monotone, "Your soul will be cleansed." In that moment Gatu saw all the wrong he had done in his life. Naruto lowered his arm, bringing the claymore through the corrupt businessman, ripping his body and soul in two. The drain of exorcising an evil soul shot through Naruto, and before he knew it, the fatigue of his battle with Kimimaro caught up to him and he was down for the count. Tenkan looked down at his retainer and up at his companions before saying, "Well, it seems I have found a worthy partner. To survive a Shikai initial release for so long on the first try is truly amazing, but I can't wait to see what he does with Bankai," and falling back into Naruto's body, waiting for the boy to awaken. Joyous laughter woke Naruto up from his slumber. Groggily he opened his eyes only to see he wasn't surrounded by the ever-present mist of the wave but was under the crimson skies of Makai. More Kyubi time? Naruto asked himself while looking through the eyes of a dead demon king. Unlike the last times, this dream's sound was really a hassle to deal with, seeing as everyone around him was cheering. Inspecting his surroundings more thoroughly, Naruto noted that there was more food and wine surrounding him than all of Konoha's combined Kyubi festivals. Noting the different faces and hair colors surrounding him, Naruto figured, "There are all demons," when he noticed that all the chakra levels that surrounded him were at least twice that of his, Kakashi's, and Zabuza's combined. However, one signature stood out, and it was the one closest to him. Unlike the wild flares that the Yuki in the party had, the creature beside him had a chakra cooling aura like spring water. Looking down, Naruto saw that the woman beside him was none other than the same woman who had went from trying to assassinate him to having wild with him a few dreams ago. Even though he was too shocked to think, Naruto felt Kyubi smile and looked towards the two delicate lines on her neck that were slightly swollen on her bronze skin. "You know it still stings," the woman told him, or rather Kyubi, and to his surprise, instead of being the angry demon lord that the villagers described him as, Kyubi just chuckled, which sent shivers down Naruto and the woman's spine. "But we both know you liked it," Kyubi whispered, breathing heavily on the woman's bite marks. She let out a semi-silent moan, which no one but Kyubi could hear, during the overly loud party. Feeling a smirk play on his face, Naruto felt his body continue to stimulate the UAL responses out of the woman beside him. Stopping himself short from having a full-out session in front of his guests, Kyubi saw the woman pout before sighing a little. Kyubi knew what was wrong and in a surprisingly gentle voice said, "You know you don't have to stay here. I'd follow you to the end of the world, even if it meant going to the heart of the Shinigami capital." His words got the desired reaction and the gloom hovering over her was washed away. "You know I can't do that, and besides, what's the point of getting us both killed?" the woman stated before shifting her neck, giving him a better view of his mating mark. "And besides, I kinda like being lady of all Makai, even if it means becoming an enemy to all of my people." The woman finished flashing Kyubi and Naruto a genuine smile before the dream faded out. Topside, Naruto wasn't in the darkness for long, because after the dream faded away he felt his energy return to him and the need for sleep almost disappear. Opening both his eyes, Naruto saw something that gave him instant déjà vu. The smile he was looking at was the exact same one he had seen Kyubi's lover flash him before his dream faded. Looking at the silky black hair draped over him, Naruto couldn't help but think that he was still in the dream, but when he tried to check he heard, "You shouldn't try move. You were chakra exhausted and you'll only hurt yourself if you strain your body." Looking back at the face above him, Naruto saw that all the similarities the girl above him had with Kyubi's lover were starting to mesh. The noses, mouths, and eye shapes were the same, but the skin tone and eye colors were different. It was as if Naruto was looking at Kyubi's lover reborn. Sitting up, Naruto saw the girl move to lay him back down before he said, "There's no need, I'm fine," and to his surprise she just giggled. "You are as stubborn as Kimimaro-kun. So please lay down and rest or you'll never recover," the girl added before laying Naruto down. He grumbled a bit and decided to let it out. "Listen, you don't seem to understand. I heal quickly and believe me, my chakra is fine, so if you will just let me up," but the girl was hearing none of it as she just ignored him and stared, unwinding his bandages. Suppressing another grumble, Naruto just laid back and decided to sneak out as soon as the mystery girl left. Unfortunately, she had no intention of leaving, and as soon as she finished replacing his bandages, she started a conversation with him. "You know, I should thank you, because from what Kimimaro-kun told me, you had a perfect opportunity to end his life and you spared him. For that I am in your debt and I will do all in my power to repay you," the girl said. Naruto just looked at her before saying, "Don't mention it." "Haku," the girl cut in before smiling politely. Naruto nodded and continued, "Like I said, don't mention it, but if you want to repay me you could let me get up and we will be just about even." Haku just frowned before saying, "I'm sorry, that is out of my power, seeing as your sensei directed me to take care of you, seeing as you will be our new guide for our life in Konoha." Life in Konoha, Naruto mentally yelled while choking on the medicine Haku had just forced down his throat. The girl giggled again before saying, "Yes, apparently Kakashi stuck a deal with Zabuza before you handled Gato, and if they survived he would find a way to help us into Konoha." Naruto just looked dumbstruck at the girl before forcing himself up. His chakra was full and he didn't give a damn what she said. He had a bone to pick with Kakashi. Unfortunately, Haku had dealt with Naruto's type before, and with a few precise jabs with a senbon, Naruto was on his back and paralyzed from the neck down. "Now be a good boy and go back to bed," Haku told Naruto, flashing him another deja vu grin before leaving him in the room to think. Closing the sliding screen door behind her, Haku was about to get something to eat before bringing some food up for Naruto when she saw Kimimaro out of the corner of her eye. He was also heavily bandaged like Naruto, but that didn't stop him from training or saying, "You know your kindness always brings trouble." Looking at her brotherly figure, Haku suppressed a giggle before telling him, "And your need to disobey my orders for bed rest will bring you trouble, Kimimaro-kun, and besides you and Zabuza need a kind person to stay with you," smirking when Kimimaro had no retort. Kimimaro remained stoic before pushing himself off the wall and leaving without a word, but his message had been sent and Haku just stood by the doorway giggling. Going back to her original mission, Haku heard Sasuke yell to Sakura, "Get off me, woman. I'm fine." While Haku got a bowl of rice and fish for herself and Naruto. Watching Sasuke sulk and Sakura sit across from him obviously mad because he was being sour about getting help, the girl just watched as he struggled to get the rice bits into his mouth with his chakra-exhausted Chidori sore hand. Shaking her head at the egotistical boy, Haku was about to make her way to Naruto's room when she saw Naruto giving it to Kakashi. "Kakashi-sensei, how could you volunteer me for something like that?" the boy whispered harshly, trying not to draw attention. Kakashi just slid his copy of Icha Icha Paradise into his jacket pocket before telling Naruto, "Because you are the only one that is fit enough to do it." Just imagine for a second Sasuke, leading the family of girl who defeated him in battle around town and trying to make them comfortable, or Sakura who would probably be too afraid of Kimimaro or Zabuza to help. So the only logical choice is you. Kakashi finished before rubbing his hand in Naruto's already messy hair and followed the path of life. "Perverted bastard," Naruto spat in a hushed voice while watching his sensei walk down the hallway reading his little orange book. Sighing, Naruto tried to make sense of his dreams and his new dilemma, and to his luck Haku appeared from around the corner with lunch. Thank God for the little things, Naruto thought to himself before forgetting about all of his problems. For a little while at least. On the road to Konoha, screw God for the little things, Naruto cried out in his mind while shaking off the daggers that Kimimaro was sending at him. He and Haku had a very interesting conversation over lunch, and Naruto found out that the girl was a pleasure to be around when she wasn't throwing senbon at your teammate or jabbing you in the neck with them. The two became fast friends, but Naruto could tell just by the sad twinkle in her eyes that she hid a deep sadness like him, and with that, he realized there were others that could understand him. It was too bad for them that Kimimaro was overprotective of his adoptive sister. Given that he would lose if he fought Naruto again, but he knew that he couldn't win, but at least he would maim Naruto if he had to, and that was enough of a daydream for him to pass the time. Zabuza, being Haku's adoptive father, didn't like the fact that she was so attached to a boy she just met, but seeing as he could defeat Kimimaro, he decided to wait to pass his judgment on Naruto. And oh, what a day that will be, Zabuza thought gleefully while sneaking glances at Kakashi's latest issue of Icha Icha Paradise. Kakashi just let out a sigh before handing Zabuza his backup copy and going back to his beloved book. Sakura just shook her head at her pervert sensei and looked back up at the sky. The trip had been the most taxing on her. Not only did everyone else have something to do, person she usually tried to talk to, Sasuke, was still sulking about his loss. Keeping to her vow to stop coddling the black-haired boy, Sakura just let her mind wander as the seemingly endless walking continued. How is it that he defeated Kimimaro? He is stronger than Haku, the one I lost to, Sasuke brooded while looking at the couple chatting merrily. The trip had given him time to think, but it also aided his overinflated ego. Even after the humbling experience, Sasuke couldn't accept that the Dobi of the class had defeated an enemy greater than the one he had lost to. But I have the Sharingan. Sasuke's ego roared while glaring at the boy. Flaring the red irises and black tomo to life, Sasuke stared at Naruto while thinking, what secrets are you hiding, Dobi? The piercing gaze saw straight through the haze of chakra that always surrounded Naruto, but before Sasuke could inspect Naruto any further, the said boy turned around and met Sasuke's stare. With one look, Naruto's tolerance for the whole situation flew out the window. Flaring his Jushu chakra, Naruto didn't suppress his grin when Sasuke had to turn away from the thick layer of chakra blinding his Sharingan. No one saw the secret war between the two boys, but Naruto knew that everyone felt the tension between the two, making the long journey home even more unbearable. It had taken 3 days to get back to Konoha, and Naruto was 3 seconds away from gouging Sasuke's eyes out. Deciding to turn his attention to a hardly awake Sakura, Naruto watched the girl try to stagger home for a well-earned shower after playing peacemaker for him and Sasuke the last 3 days. The girl was about to round the corner when Kakashi called her back for the mission report. Once in the tower, Naruto shot a glare at the secretary in order to keep her from saying anything to him or the guests and proceeded into the Hokage's office. Naruto smirked when he saw the Hokage do a double take before demanding an explanation as to why 3 missing nins were in his office, including the famed demon of the mist, Momochi Zabuza. Saving the old man from having to hear another of Kakashi's lame excuses, Naruto butted in and told the Hokage the whole story of the battle at the bridge. By the end, the Hokage looked surprised and disturbed at the same time. Scanning Naruto's face for any lies, the Hokage nodded when he found none and told the group in front of him, "You are dismissed for the time being. For now I need to have a meeting with my advisors over this matter, so why don't you show the new Leaf hopefuls the village while you wait," dismissing the group. Sasuke immediately left to his own estate, probably to brood and train, Naruto told himself while watching Sakura try to walk herself home before she passed out in the Hokage's office. Kakashi simply disappeared before reminding Naruto, "You are in charge of showing our guesses around the village." Grumbling, Naruto walked off in the opposite direction of his 2 teammates before trying to find someone to help him with the job of guiding 3 ex-mist nins around Konoha, and maybe be there to help him if Kimimaro decided he was a little too close to his adoptive sister. Walking by the Hyuga estate, Naruto's prayers were answered when Hinata came through the gates and hurried over to him. "Naruto-kun, how did your mission go?" Hinata asked while embracing the boy. Noticing the spike in killing intent from behind him, Naruto was sure that if Hinata didn't get off him now, he may not see the light of day again. Luckily for him, the girl released him when she noticed the almost inaudible sigh Haku let out. Moving to the other girl, Hinata introduced herself. "Hyuga Hinata," the heiress told the girl, waiting for a reply. Haku just nodded and mumbled, "Momochi Haku," while pushing down any jealous thoughts in her head. Putting on a smile, Haku started a conversation with Hinata in hopes to make a friend in her new home. So when did you meet Naruto? The Hyuga heiress asked her new friend. Much like Naruto, she found Haku to be a pleasure to be around, and when she found out that the girl had spent most of her time with Naruto, the little matchmaker in her head started formulating ideas. During the mission, Haku answered not wanting Hinata to know that they were on opposite sides at first. It wasn't exactly lying, but it still made the older girl feel guilty, especially since it was to such a kind girl like Hinata. Oh, that's good, Hinata said, dropping the subject when she saw Haku's aura change. Her Byakugan training was advancing quickly for someone her age, rivaling even that of Neji's, so it was easy for her to see emotion changes even without the help of the all-seeing eyes. Smiling, Hinata pointed to her favorite ninja gear shop before starting another conversation. So what do you think of Naruto-kun? Haku's heart fell a bit when she heard the added kun to Naruto's name. Is he taken? Why'd I care so much? Haku asked herself before she noticed Hinata's eyebrow rise a bit. The Hyuga noticed Haku's aura change to uncertainty and smiled inwardly. The smile grew outward, and before Haku could see the coy look on the girl's face, she heard, "Believe me, Naruto-kun's like a brother to me. A completely oblivious brother, but still a brother, and besides I think that guy over there is kind of cute." Blushing a bit, Haku was about to protest to Hinata's insinuation when she noticed what guy Hinata was looking at. You can't be serious, Haku asked herself when she saw who Hinata was looking at. Kimimaro was oblivious to the attention he was getting and just kept his glare trained on the blonde in front of him. Haku looked at Hinata before looking back at her brother and telling Hinata, "Well, you have your work cut out for you, because not once have I ever seen Kimimaro-kun smile." "Well, that makes this even more fun," Hinata told her new friend following them back into the Hokage's tower. Now that the village tour was over, now the official initiation into the Konoha shinobi ranks came. Naruto and Hinata stood outside the door while the three missing nins walked into the Hokage's office. Taking the seat offering each of the battle-tested nin looked at the three people stationed in front of them. They had already met the Hokage, but the man and woman beside him were a mystery to them. The Hokage kept his normal friendly smile on while introducing his two companions. "This is Homura and Kaharu. They are my former teammates and now council advisors. They have been kind enough to set arrangements for you," the Kage told the three in front on him. Sitting back, Sarutobi let his advisors take the floor and direct the meeting. Momochi Zabuza, former member of the Mist's 7 swordsmen, and contender for the title of Mizukage, willing to going as far as to perform a coup d'état, Homura stated while sizing Zabuza up. Looking to Kaharu, Hamaru nodded before saying aloud, "I know it will be useless to try and pry into your mind for any secrets you may be hiding," while looking intently at Zabuza's headband. The mist shifted uneasily while ignoring the burning on his forehead. "Damn seal, if it gets us booted out of this village I swear." But Zabuza never finished his thoughts, seeing as Kaharu spoke up. "We know of the binding seal you have to the Mizukage, and we know of the reasons of your failed coup d'état, but don't hold it against us if we don't completely trust you, so to remedy the situation we are assigning you to a special Jonin team." Nodding, Zabuza hid his relief and scratched the seal under his hiat. It was one of the few times that Zabuza revealed the seal out in public because it was a constant reminder of his servitude to the bastard he once called his Kage. Listening to the old duo ramble on a bit, Zabuza tuned in when he heard the conversation shift. The two came in the door opposite of the one where Naruto and Hinata were waiting. Two figures walked in. Looking at the male and female, Zabuza thought, maybe this won't be boring. Here they are, Mitarashi Anko and Morino Ibiki. They're your partners and your supervisors until you earn the village's trust. So you may not leave the village walls without them or permission from them, otherwise you will be considered a missing nin, Hamaru warned Zabuza before letting him leave with his new team. "So what are your specialties?" the masked nin asked while walking out the door. "Oh, I think you will find them fitting partners, Momochi-san," Hamaru thought before turning to the mist swordsman's wards. Being a firm believer in chivalry, Hamaru started with the girl first. Momochi Haku, hunter nin for Zabuza's coup d'état army, and only surviving member of the Isu clan. "Those are huge accomplishments for someone so young," Hamaru told the girl. Haku looked at the man in surprise while thinking, "He knows of my clan. But I thought, no, if he knew of Zabuza's marking, then it is only reasonable that he knows of my clan." Sensing the girl's confusion, Hamaru said, "We in Konoha make it our business to know what's happening in other countries, especially ones that love war. Haku just nodded and waited for her assignment. Hamaru looked over the report Kakashi had written and turned to Kamaru, discussing the options they had open. The seconds ticked by and Haku grew more and more nervous until Kaharu cleared her throat and said, "Child, it seems both your guardian and one of our own Jonin hold you in high respect. They both said you exhibit Jonin-level skills, but you show disdain for killing. It's strange, but we can accommodate that by drafting you into the Med-Nin program." Looking up, Haku stared at the two in surprise. What they said was true. Killing hadn't been her favorite pastime, but it was a necessity. Now she was given an opportunity to heal instead of harm, but would that make me useless? The girl wondered while saying, "I would like that, but what of my..." But she was cut off by Kaharu. "Do not worry, child, our Med-Nin are renowned to be excellent shinobi as well, so do not worry of being useless," the elder woman said as if she had read the girl's mind. Continuing, Kaharu said, "Besides, one of our legendary Sannin was Med-Nin and her strength is feared throughout the whole shinobi world." Nodding, Haku's worries were settled and she looked to her brother. The two turned their attention to the boy and began their analysis. "Kagaya Kimimaro, no, it's Momochi Kimimaro now, isn't it?" Hamaru started expressing his interest in the change. From the notes Kakashi had Zabuza write about his team, the council advisors realized that Kimimaro had more disdain for his old clan name than the people who destroyed them. Nodding, Kimimaro silently agreed before letting the two elders continue. "Like your sister here, you are the only surviving member of your clan, aren't you?" The old man asked and again got another nod. Nodding back, he continued saying, "Well, we have done our research and decided to make you our personal pupil," while motioning for his partner to agree. Kaharu nodded in approval and the Hokage sat up in surprise, but before he could say anything Kaharu told him, "Calm down, Sasuke. We won't teach him the most destructive parts of our art, so don't worry," she said, trying to calm down her old teammate. Kimimaro looked at the three elders in front of him and with his normal monotone voice asked, "What is this art that you are trying to teach me?" All three of the elders stopped their debate and looked to the boy who hadn't said anything in the whole conversation. Sighing, Sasuke let his teammates answer the question. "We ourselves use a distinct form of jutsu, in an attempt to distinguish ourselves from our teammate and Hokage, also known as the Professor, who has mastery of all leaf jutsu," Kaharu began before letting Hamaru pick up. "We instead followed the route of seals, tutoring Sasuke's pupil Jiraiya in the art, who in turn tutored the fourth, the greatest seal master of his time." Looking at the boy to make sure he was following, Hamaru waited for the boy to comment and wasn't disappointed. "So you want me to become a seal master?" The two nodded and Kimimaro said in his normal monotone, "But I am a taijutsu specialist. Ninjutsu has never been my style." The two older shinobi sighed a bit before Hamaru said, "I should have expected this, but in truth, seals are ninjutsu but only to a certain level. They do consume chakra, but unlike ninjutsu, they can have a plethora of effects, such as..." The man led off before laying his hand on the desk in front of him. Letting some chakra seep through his hands, he then made lightning-quick marks on the desk before it erupted into sawdust. Sarutobi let out a sigh and said, "Do you always have to do that demonstration?" Hamaru just smiled and said, "Yes, because it leaves the most memorable effects." It was true, both of the ex-mist shinobi were shocked, but only Haku showed it. Kimimaro nodded his head before expressing his interest in the subject. "Tell me more." Hamaru smirked and said, "Well, we have a believer now, but that is only one of the many things that can be done with seals. Another being this," and with a single motion, Hamaru rebuilt the mahogany desk as fast as he disintegrated it. Kimimaro nodded and without words urged them to continue. Kaharu took over for her partner and said, "This is only the tip of the iceberg. True masters of the art can transmute objects to their desires or even complete much more destructive and complicated maneuvers without the aid of a seal." The elder told the boy, and by the look on his face his was in. Watching his teammates wrap up their conversation with their new pupil, Sasuke thought to himself, "My teammates have found someone to pass their knowledge onto, but who will be my successor?" The old scar from his former pupil lay heavy on his heart and the upcoming Chunin exam was making him worry, especially with this new village of the sound. Dismissing the two shinobi, Sasuke gave Kimimaro the key to their new apartment and told him that Zabuza would meet them there. Seeing the two leave through the doors they came in, the Sarutobi smiled when he noticed that Naruto and the Hyuga heiress were there waiting for them. "Well, at least I know my village will be all right," the old man told himself. sure that Naruto would be there for this village just as he was for these newcomers. That night, never again, Naruto told himself while walking Haku and Kimimaro home. Hinata had been dropped off at the Hyuga estate a few minutes ago after a long afternoon of showing the new shinobi around town. More like having an excuse to spend the day shopping, Naruto grumbled to himself, while holding Haku's bags. Originally the girl had offered to carry them, but after some convincing by Hinata, much to Naruto's dismay, she managed to get Naruto to carry them. Now after a solid 5-hour block of shopping, Naruto was finally on his way home. My feet ache, my head hurts, and if I ever have to model gear for them again I think I'll scream. 1. Naruto told himself while they continued to walk in silence. It had been like that ever since Hinata left. The girl had been the life of the party and without her everyone seemed content on just staring, or in Kimimaro's case glaring, at each other awkwardly. She even managed to get Kimimaro off my back, Naruto added while recalling how the Hyuga heiress had drawn Kimimaro into a conversation, no matter how one-sided, and managed to get him to stop glaring at Naruto every time he tried to talk to Haku. Now the awkward silence was killing him and Naruto didn't have any idea how to break it. Turning to the girl Naruto said, "Well, how was the tour?" Unsure of what to talk about. Turning to Kimimaro, Naruto felt relief pass through him when he noticed that Kimimaro was either too drawn into his own thought to care or too tired to object to him talking to his sister. Haku smiled shyly and told Naruto, "It was interesting, but Hinata seems a bit." Haku started unsure of what she wanted to say would upset Naruto. But lucky for her the boy had a sense of humor. Yeah I know, but you should have seen her before I got through to her. She was a stuttering mess who was shyer than a newborn kitten," Naruto said before laughing at the thought. Haku giggled a little and heard Naruto say, "Just don't tell her I said that, because I don't need to give her a reason to practice her juken on me." Nodding, Haku giggled again causing Naruto to chuckle as well. Kimimaro shot Naruto a look that wasn't quite a glare for a second before turning his eyes back to the front. "What was that about?" Naruto asked before turning his attention back to Haku. They chatted for a while, until they reached the address on the direction where it was leading them. Looking up from the paper, Naruto couldn't believe where they were or that he hadn't noticed the address before. Looking down to make sure it was right, Naruto said to himself, "I'll get you back for this Ji-san," before guiding the two to their apartment. "This is you guys, and this is me," Naruto told them before pointing to the apartment next to it. Kimimaro nodded and went inside, probably to catch some sleep, leaving Haku and Naruto outside. The awkward silence was back, but before Naruto could break it, Haku gave the boy a quick hug and muttered, "Thank you so much for giving us this second chance," before darting inside. Naruto just stood there for a second before telling himself, "Why is this so complicated?" In the deserts of Wind Country. The dust was settling after a climatic finish to a cage-level battle. Standing above the Yondaime cage, Orochimaru took a second to really look at the man who was almost as twisted as he was. This man had taken preserved samples from the Sandaime, master of the iron sand, and grafted them into his own body in a surprisingly successful attempt to give him some leverage over his son. It worked, and one of the few considered equal to Konoha's Yondaime gained the ability to use the iron sand. However, that hadn't saved him. Abed Orochimaru looked down at the man's eyes that were quickly losing the light of life. Glee spread through him when he realized, Konoha's destruction is assured now. Then it dawned on him, I would have died if it weren't for Kabuto. The truth was the cage had Orochimaru pinned under his iron sand, and even now as the man's lingering chakra left for the spirit realm, Orochimaru could still feel the prickle of the tiny grains of sand tearing through his skin like a hot kunai. Turning to his silver-haired ward, Orochimaru saw the boy pick up his glasses that had been lost in battle and subdued the growing chuckling within him. Maybe it is his only link to his true self, or something he needs to hold on to, Orochimaru told himself while recalling Kabuto when he summoned up his old blood, and his abilities spiked. Almost frighteningly, Orochimaru commented when he saw the Med Nin's abilities grew to a semi-cage level, tipping the battle in his favor. And to think I never suspected that this child would be able to reach this level. But then again his parents were both more than minor annoyances to me, the Snake Sannin added while calling his assistant over to him. Kabuto, why don't you use that special ability of yours? I believe that it will be very useful in the near future, Orochimaru told the silver-haired boy, who just went to the task with single-minded determination. Watching the once dead man slowly be brought back to life, Orochimaru chuckled to himself while thinking, Konoha will fall. Naruto woke up, gasping for breath as if someone had just been strangling him. Bringing his hand to his neck, Naruto looked around for some sort of invisible foe. His search proved futile as all of his worries of a silent assailant were in vain, and while rubbing his sore throat, Naruto decided that he had gotten enough sleep and it was time to start his day. Starting with a warm shower, Naruto let his mind wander back to the dream he was having before being torn away from it by the choking feeling. It was vague, but the dream had some prophetic properties to it, that much Naruto could tell. It felt like he was looking at a map and in the center was a great fire that roared over a land full of trees. It didn't take long for Naruto to put two and two together and figure out that the central fire was Fire Country, home to his village, Konoha. What worried Naruto wasn't the fire, but what was happening to the west. In the desert, a serpent fought what looked like to be the earth itself. The battle raged and the purple snake took hit after hit of what looked to be glistening, metallic like sand which tore through the reptile's scales like paper. Suddenly, after a burst of cold energy, the ground stopped attacking the snake. The desert grew silent as a grave before another burst of cold chakra awakened the ground. Rising up and surrounding the snake, and instead of trying to kill the serpent, the sand coated it protectively. Protecting the snake through the heat of the Fire Country flames, the sands opened a passage to a perfect replica of Konoha. In the heart of Fire Country, the snake coiled around Naruto's beloved city, and just like that, Naruto's breath hitched as if it were coiling around his neck. Watching in morbid fascination, Naruto watched the snake's grip on the village grow painfully tight, and as his lung cried out for air, Naruto watched the snake stand up and loom above the constricted village and about to deliver a fatal blow to the village. That was where the dream ended. Naruto never got to see what happened as the lack of air to his lungs became too bothersome for him to ignore anymore. Shaking the thoughts of the dream away, Naruto couldn't make much out of the dream except don't trust snakes, especially ones from Wind Country. If he only knew that this snake was as stealthy as he was devious. Dressing and eating, Naruto couldn't help but notice that every dream he had for the past few weeks were normal. His last, weird, dream had been in Wave Country when he made the realization that the dreams he were experiencing were in fact the Kyubis. Grabbing his wooden katana, Naruto made his way to the door, lost in thought. It's almost been a month since my last vision. Gigi-san said that they were trying to tell me something, but I wonder what this one means. Before Naruto could think of any solutions, he had arrived at his destination. Knocking on the door, Haku's smiling face greeted Naruto. Giving her a grin of his own, Naruto walked into her apartment, which was right across from his, and asked in a pleasant voice, "Is Momochi-sensei here?" Nodding, Haku pointed to the black room which had an aura that just screamed stay away. Nodding back, Naruto sat down and waited for his Kenjutsu-sensei to come out of his room. For the past few weeks, Naruto had been spending much of his free time with the Momochi clan while they assimilated themselves into the Konoha lifestyle. The process was almost complete and each of them had fallen into their roles. Haku would wake up bright and early to prepare for her day at the hospital. In addition, Kimimaro also woke up, who would then go somewhere to meet with his teachers, Homura and Kaharu, to learn some art that he promised would defeat Naruto. Yeah, right, if he thinks I'm just going to stand around and let myself get beaten, then he has another thing coming, Naruto thought indignantly while waiting for his secret weapon to counter Kimimaro's claim. Stepping out of his room, Momochi Zabuza, current head of Momochi clan, received a dazzling smile from his adoptive daughter and a good morning from his temporary sword pupil. "Morning, Zabuza-san," Naruto called out, hoping to break the icy shield the man usually had around him. Zabuza grunted something about it being too early before taking some of the breakfast that Haku prepared when she got up. Seeing that Naruto would probably have to sit and wait for Zabuza to finish, Haku offered the boy some of her cooking. Naruto would have refused, saying that he already ate, but after the look Zabuza gave him, Naruto took the food with lightning speed and guzzled it once he found out how good it tasted. "Where do you learn to cook like this, Haku-chan? This stuff is amazing," Naruto exclaimed without even looking up from his plate that he was currently devouring. Blushing, Haku's mind went blank for a second before Zabuza grunted, breaking her out of her reverie. "Oh, it's nothing. I've had to cook for Zabuza and Kimimaro-kun for the longest time, seeing as neither of them can cook nor even prepare food without it ending up a mess," Haku answered with a bit of shock from the compliment. Nodding, Naruto finished his meal before taking up the dishes, much to Haku's distress. Batting her away gently, Naruto just shook his head before telling her, "I ate off it and I should be the one to clean and put it away." Giving up, Haku just sighed and started on the other dishes before Naruto did those too. Hearing Zabuza stand, Naruto turned to the man just in time to hear him say, "Come on boy. Let's get this lesson over with." The trip to the training field was short, but Naruto knew it well. The clearing had been beaten to the point where no grass would grow due to overexposure to high levels of chakra and the constant dishevels it had to go through courtesy of the swords that dug up the ground. Watching Zabuza pull Kabikiri Hucho off his back and slide into a stance, Naruto mimicked the man and positioned his sword the same way. Having his wooden sword parallel to the ground below him, Naruto gripped the sword at face level with the tip pointed towards his opponent. Studying his stance, Zabuza couldn't help but grin through his bandages. The boy had learned much in the few weeks he had been practicing with him, and it felt good to be able to teach a pupil the noble art of swordplay like his teachers had done before him. Like his teachers, Zabuza took great pleasure in overpowering, overwhelming, and outclassing the boy while teaching him his noble art. Their swords clashed again. Naruto's wooden sword couldn't contend with the strength that Zabuza was packing in his Kabikiri Hucho. Wrapping his Jushu chakra around his sword like usual, Naruto unleashed his Teshirai, Kukagiri. The wind ripped through the air much faster than it did in Wave Country as a constitution to Naruto's growing skill. Zabuza met Naruto's attack and applied a little chakra to his sword and, bam! The new Konoha nin thought loudly when his sword cut right through Naruto's air slash. The displaced air managed to kick up a lot of loose dust that had settled on the beaten field, but it wasn't enough to stop the ex-mist swordsman, especially one specializing in silent assassination. Appearing behind Naruto with his sword raised high above his head, Zabuza used his chakra to blunt the sword, intending to give the boy a rather nasty bruise instead of killing him. However, when he went in for the finishing blow, Naruto spun around and met his blade with an equally chakra-enhanced wooden sword. His defense has gotten better. Let's see how much, Zabuza thought while holding Naruto down with one hand. The boy grunted below his strength and using both arms, Naruto pushed with all his might only to be pushed lower to the ground by Zabuza's one arm. Seeing his chance, Zabuza slid his sword to the ground and in the confusion planted a kick in Naruto's face using his sword handle as a pivot to spin his body. Gripping the sword and using the momentum from his kick, Zabuza heaved his sword out of the ground along with a chunk of earth, before sending the mound hurtling at the flying Naruto. Dazed from the roundhouse to the face, Naruto managed to shake the footprint from his vision in time to see a large slab of earth heading straight toward him. Spinning his chakra around him, Naruto managed to fire off a Teshirai Kukagiri that cut straight through the earth mound, pulling it along as shrapnel while it headed for the mist nin. Blocking the disintegrated dirt clots that followed after the chakra wave, Zabuza shot the dirt off of the broad side of Kabikiri Hucho when he swung at Naruto's neck as the boy tried to sneak up on him from the back. "Nice try, brat, but you make too much noise when you stalk someone. You should be more like this," Zabuza exclaimed as he disappeared from Naruto's sight. Looking around frantically, Naruto couldn't find his sensei until below. Naruto heard Zabuza shout from behind. Turning around, Naruto caught an eyeful of Zabuza rising from his crouched form, Kabikiri Hucho already in full swing. The blow connected with his sword arm and Naruto swore he heard something crack, while his sword flew from his hand and landed a good few meters behind him. Swearing loudly, Naruto looked to Zabuza who was smirking behind his bandages. These were almost the most dangerous and painful moments of Zabuza's lessons. Naruto knew without his sword he couldn't do much to stop Zabuza, and even though he knew the man would tell him to get his sword, the offer wouldn't come without a price. "Get your sword, boy, we aren't finished yet," Zabuza ordered as Naruto predicted. With his eyes locked on his teacher just to see if he decided to attack, Naruto felt for his wooden sword with his Jushu chakra. Finding the sword, Naruto managed to slip past Zabuza's surprise sword strike and jump towards his lost weapon. "Well, since you wouldn't move, I decided to give you a little incentive," Zabuza said almost innocently while smirking at Naruto. Not sharing Zabuza's sense of humor, Naruto heaved his blade out of the ground before galling back into stance. Zabuza, who had been resting with his back against his planted sword, stood up and said, "That's more like it. Now the real fun begins." before going through rapid hand seals and activating Kirigakure no Jutsu. Naruto heard Zabuza rip Kabikari Hucho from the ground, and with a deep breath, he started a whirlwind using his elementally manipulated Jushu chakra. The mist lifted from around him and gave Naruto about 10 feet worth of clear vision before the mist blocked the rest. Gripping his sword, Naruto smirked too before the real battle begun. After a long training session, Naruto was practically limping to his team meeting. Every muscle, and he meant every muscle, was on fire, aching from the abuse that Zabuza had put them through. But it'll all be worth it when I can kick major ass like Zabuza-sensei, Naruto thought with a smile before walking onto the team bridge. He was late, and glares from his teammates showed that they already knew. Wincing partially from the glares and partially from the pain he was in, Naruto managed to get off an apology before collapsing on the bridge railing. Having been spared a loud, "You're late," from Sakura, Naruto decided not to pester her, seeing as she had reserved the loud noise just for Kakashi. Falling deeper into relaxation, Naruto nodded off for a second, trying to recover a bit of energy before Kakashi arrived. Unbeknownst to Naruto, his late entrance wasn't completely forgiven. Sasuke was brooding a lot more than his usual self, mostly because for every team meeting both of his teammates came covered in sweat. Sasuke didn't mind Sakura's hidden training agenda so much, because in his mind men would always be superior to women, but Naruto's tardiness only served to infuriate him. What is the Dobi doing? I need to know what type of training he's doing. I need to know how he was able to produce that much chakra. Sasuke mumbled in his mind as he recalled the time Naruto had blocked out his Sharingan with just a huge amount of raw chakra. The thought that someone as young as him could do it was unnerving, but the thought of it was ludicrous, especially since Naruto didn't even break a sweat. As the memory burned in Sasuke's mind, making his current mood even fouler, Sasuke didn't even notice that Sakura hadn't even tried to strike up a conversation with him the whole half an hour they had been sitting there. Sakura's mind was far from the training bridge her body was stuck sitting at, and if it hadn't been for Naruto's arrival, some would have thought her to been gone from the world. Even though she was fully aware of her surroundings, thanks to genjutsu training and sparring with Kunai and Hinata, Sakura was wondering what had happened to her when she came home after the disaster-stricken wave mission. The fatigue from the mission and playing peacemaker for Naruto and Sasuke's feud had taken all of her energy, and the most she could remember was stumbling away from the mission debriefing and running into a green wall. Straining her memory, Sakura tried, with no avail, to remember anything more about the green wall with black hair. Sighing, Sakura remembered what her mother told her. "Yes, Sakura dear, you were exhausted. You hardly could move your head when that kind boy came walking down our street holding you on his back. If I hadn't been outside to call him over, he would have been outside all night trying to find where we lived," the older Haruno woman said before going back to her work. Being the head of the library was a hard job, especially when it meant keeping track of every book in Konoha's extensive library. Sighing again, Sakura looked to Sasuke and wondered it was him that tried getting her home safely. Instantly the inner fangirl screamed, yes, and it was true love and fate that had dictated the actions. But then the logical half of her brain kicked in, destroying all creditability to that claim. First off, Sasuke doesn't wear green. Second, he had left for his house at the same time as me, which was in the opposite direction, and third, Mom knows who Uchiha Sasuke is and would have told me if it were him, the logic inner Sakura said, ending her rant by pushing up her imaginary glasses. Turning her gaze away from the slightly east Uchiha, Sakura wondered who her real knight in shining armor was before she felt a familiar chakra source enter her range of perception. Shaking all the thoughts of love and the kindness of strangers away, Sakura let her anger rule her, and as soon as the faithful poof sound was heard, she yelled at the top of her lungs, "You're late." Wincing a bit, Kakashi smiled at the little tradition that they started and looked to his other wards and saw that Sasuke was brooding and Naruto was sitting quietly, happy with his nap and the wake-up call that followed. All is right in the world, Kakashi thought merrily before whipping out his limited edition copy of Icha Icha Paradise. Seeing Sakura scold and Naruto look at him with slight disgust, Kakashi decided to stop playing with his students and get to the real reason he called this meeting. Listen up, because I'm only going to say this once. You guys did an excellent job on the wave mission, and even though you were in over your head, you kept your cool and pulled it off like real shinobi. In addition, whether you know it or not, I have been monitoring each of your developments and I've decided that you are ready for the Chunin exams. Each of the genin were silent as Kakashi handed them their passes for the test, looking at the golden ticket, the members of Team 7 had a different thing on their minds. For Sasuke, this would be his perfect opportunity to see the extent of Naruto's power and figure out a way to make it his own. Sakura, on the other hand, was looking at the ticket riddled with self-doubt. Even though she had survived an encounter with enemy nin way above her level and was now training with one, her fears of being too weak were coming back to haunt her. Last was Naruto. This ticket was a stepping stone for him, and this would be a true test for him. If he passed, it would only show how much stronger he had become. Well, I guess this will be fun, Naruto thought to himself while wondering what type of nin he will battle from all across the shinobi globe. Looking at Sasuke smirking, Sakura frowning, and Naruto hyping himself up, Kakashi could pretty much guess what was going on in their minds even without the aid of his Sharingan eye. Knowing that his team would enter, Kakashi ended the meeting early, but not before telling them, be at the academy tomorrow ready to go, because the exam starts then. Each of the three looked up in surprise. This was a huge step in their ninja careers, and Kakashi had only given them 1 day's notice. Before Kakashi could get a piece of any of his charge's minds, he disappeared in a plume of ninja smoke. Cursing aloud, Naruto looked down at his bruised sword arm and wondered, shit, how am I going to get this healed in 1 day? Normally the excess chakra he was always spewing from his body would wrap around any wound and increase the healing rate. Naruto figured it to be one of the countless seals his father had integrated into the seal to house Kyubi's chakra. He thanked the man for the perk, because now bruises and cuts that would take weeks to heal only took days at the most, but seeing as Naruto couldn't focus the healing potency of the chakra, it was time he didn't have. Waiting for Sasuke to leave before Naruto even showed focus on his battered arm, Naruto tried to think of a way to fix his arm before the exams when he heard Sakura say, "Boys and their stupid pride." Looking at the girl, Naruto was about to let loose a snide retort when he saw Sakura examine his arm. Striding over in righteous fury, Sakura lifted Naruto's sleeve only to see the full extent of the damage. She let out a gasp when she laid eyes on the mismatch of black and blue skin. Sighing out loud, "Come with me, we'll need our team in tip-top shape for the exams tomorrow," Sakura said while letting go of all of her doubts. Naruto was led by the bruised arm away from the team meeting bridge to another training patch. Noticing a few familiar chakra signals, Naruto's mind began to wander on what Sakura was planning when he entered the clearing. There, in what Naruto could only describe as a beautiful dance of water and ice, Haku and Hinata sparred using full force. Transfixed for a second, Naruto watched his little sister and next-door neighbor go back and forth with a grace only a female body could obtain. Watching several ice needles rain from the sky, Naruto was shocked when Hinata stopped the first wave with just her jutesaki. The girl weaved through the hail of ice, blocking dozens of needles on each step of her elegant dance. Seeing as there was about to be an overwhelming number of needles, Hinata stopped and began using her clan technique, the Kaden, heavenly spin. Naruto had never seen it before in his life, but from the books the Hokage had given him, it was supposed to be Konoha's ultimate defense. True to its definition, the technique flung the ice needles in all directions, and a mini hurricane left a small divot under Hinata from the excess chakra and fast rotation. The lingering ice in the air quickly regrouped and formed into strategically placed mirrors. Seeing the Hyuden, Makyu Hyosho, ice release, demonic ice mirrors, form around his sister, Naruto was about to jump into and stop the fight when Sakura grabbed his arm. Looking at the girl incredulously before he heard her say, "Just watch. They may look like they're going all out, but they're not." Hinata could have easily killed Haku in the times she had her pinned in close range, while Haku could have done the same with her Senbon training. Believing Sakura's deduction, Naruto watched as Hinata was attacked from all sides with countless Senbon. Even with her Byakugan and the near 360-degree vision it provided, Hinata was still taking damage faster than her Jutesaki or Kaden could keep up with, and seeing that the end was near, Hinata pulled out her secret weapon. Naruto watched with transfixed fascination as Hinata pulled out what looked like a replica of his pentacle from her sleeve and channeled a surprising amount of chakra through it. A wisp of highly refined chakra shot up from the end pentacle, and only with her Hyuga control was Hinata able to support the high chakra demands. Feeling the fatigue of the heavy chakra use straining her breathing, Hinata utilized the makeshift blade of chakra by stretching it from her pentacle into one of the ice mirrors. Haku was shocked that Hinata could make the blade grow so long and was even more shocked that it had a Juken-like effect on her mirror, disrupting the chakra and destroying the jutsu. Falling into the Hake stance, Hinata whispered, "Hake. Jinsoku Shuin Sho. 8 trigrams. Swift sealing palm." And Haku saw the bright green trigram, which she had come to know and loathe, spread from under the petite Hyuga heiress before invisible binds of killing intent mixed with refined chakra held her in place. From there, Hinata's movements became blurs as she twisted and turned to angle the shots of her chakra blade into each ice mirror. Watching the ice shatter like glass, Naruto was surprised when he saw both Haku and Hinata panting, surrounded by a ring of ice shards. Hinata was winded much worse than the other girl was, and it had taken nearly all of her reserves to do the last technique, not even leaving her enough chakra to support her blade. Haku didn't waste this opportunity and quickly formed an ice needle before positioning it on Hinata's neck. Lifting the Hyuga's head, Haku told the girl with gentle eyes, "You did well. Not many have lasted that long against me, and if it weren't for your smaller reserves you would have won." "Thank you, Haku-chan, but I won't kid myself. You were going easy on me. I know that much because from what I heard, Kunarai-sensei said she met Zabuza and he said that you were even stronger than him." Hinata could only watch Haku blush with the compliment before turning her attention elsewhere to avoid further embarrassment. That's when his eyes landed on Naruto. A smile seemed to spring on her face whenever she saw the younger boy, probably because he is one of the reasons we aren't living on the run from the Mizukage still, the young girl thought before leading Hinata to the newcomers. Sakura smirked at the two before saying, "I knew you two would be at it again, but I'm surprised that you didn't wait for me. I mean, I thought we all agreed that we would always have a three-way spar before practice?" Popping one of the soldier pills she had gotten from Kiba in her mouth, Hinata swallowed the little red pill before feeling a wave of refreshment wash over her. Sighing in content, she said to Sakura, "But you always complain about how your sensei is late and unpredictable, so we figured that the meeting might have turned into a training session when you were late." Accepting the answer, Sakura turned to Naruto and said, "See, we've been working hard too, Naruto, and I think you'll find out what we've been learning pretty interesting." Corking an eyebrow at her, Naruto let the curiosity on his face be his answer and waited for one of the girls to tell him what they've been up to. Sakura was the one to break the silence by saying, "Haku-senpai, look at this," before lifting Naruto's sleeve. Instinctively Naruto reached to bar her actions, but it seemed that whatever Sakura had been doing with his sister and neighbor made her hand movements a hell of a lot quicker. Both Hinata and Haku winced at the sight, and Naruto felt bad for showing his adoptive sister and neighbor the bruises he got from training. It was as if he was burdening them with unnecessary knowledge, and the fact that he hated to be a burden made the guilt weigh heavier on him. Summoning some of her leftover chakra from her spar, Haku formed a light green chakra around her hand before applying it to Naruto's shoulder. The big black bruise that he received when Naruto had been disarmed disappeared right before his eyes, along with the stiffness in his arm and pain that came whenever he forced it to move. Falling back, Haku said, "All done," before asking Hinata to check over the wound with her Byakugan. Sweeping over her brother's arm, Naruto couldn't help but feel naked in front of the all-seeing eyes of the Byakugan, and sensing his discomfort, Hinata hurried up with the procedure. Shutting off her famous Kekkei Genkei, Hinata told Naruto, "There's no need to be embarrassed, Naruto. I've been trained to only see through what I want to see, and believe me, I've passed the stage of looking through your underwear." All the girls around him laughed, with the exception of Haku, who was now a bright red. Seeing this, Hinata nudged Haku before whispering to her, "Don't worry, I haven't seen too much of your man," causing the girl to blush even more before sputtering nonsense about not knowing what she was talking about. Naruto, on the other hand, stood dazed at what was happening before deciding to change the subject to something he was more comfortable with, something that didn't revolve around looking through his pants. Noticing the pentacle dangling from Hinata's wrist again, Naruto grabbed his own and started comparing the two. The design was similar and the metal work had to be done by the same person, or at least by the company. The only noticeable difference was that Naruto's pentacle had 5 arms, whereas Hinata's had 4. Noticing her adoptive brother's gaze lingering on her bracelet, she compared hers to his and made the same discoveries as he did. Naruto looked puzzled for a second before Hinata said, "It was my mother's, a family heirloom that has been passed down from mother to daughter. Father gave it to me on my birthday while you were away at the tropics. He told me I was finally ready to have it and that I reminded him of Mom more than I knew." Nodding, Naruto felt a little bad that he had missed her birthday, but his mind was instantly preoccupied with the thoughts that he may be a Hyuga. "I got mine from my father. It's obvious that whoever made these was close to one another, whether it is by blood or by love. Unless my dad was a former lover of Hinata's mom, we may be related. Naruto's mind raced, trying to find any other alternatives or possibilities. Unless dad was a crook and stole this from the Hyuga, then I'm out of luck. This might be the case since I don't have the Byakugan, Naruto thought while looking to the girl who he may be closer to than he thought. Hinata seemed to catch the importance of the matching accessories as well. She knew that Naruto had received the five-legged cross as a gift from his father, who that was she was never told. Pushing this aside for now, Naruto broke the tension by asking all three girls, "So this is what you've been working so hard on? Are you all planning to be field medics?" The question seemed harmless and a good distraction for Naruto as he tried to formulate ways to find out all the answers to this puzzle. Sakura nodded saying, "Yeah. We may not major in that area, but with each of our high control and reckless friends, being able to do a little first aid will come in handy. Plus you learn some interesting things about the body while studying to be a medical nin." Naruto began to sweat as his mind totally switched from his link to the Hyuga clan and solely focused on Sakura's, along with Hinata and Haku's, advancing forms. All three hit him in the neck, paralyzing him from the waist down. Looking up, Naruto saw all three girls say, "Let this be a warning not to tell anyone that we train here. Ino Pig already knows and is training with the Bum and Shoji to beat me in the Chunin exams, so if I hear one word that you leaked any information to her," Sakura added while letting a twisted smile play on her face as she laid a very personal genjutsu on Naruto's prone form. The genjutsu ended and Naruto was covering the twins and their pet horse, hoping that whatever he had just seen won't come true. Looking for Hinata, Naruto saw that she was leaving and catching the far-off look on her face. He knew that she would be thinking of the connection between them as much as he was. Turning to the last girl, Naruto noticed that Haku was waiting for Sakura to leave the clearing before saying, "Sorry about that, we swore that we'd do it to anyone who found out." Releasing him from his binding prison, Naruto's muscles immediately relaxed and he looked at Haku's calloused, but delicate, hand reach out to lift him up. Taking the older girl's hand, Naruto let his grip linger longer than necessary, making a note of how small her hands were. "Not that it matters, they'll still send dozens of frozen needles to rain on you," Naruto noted before he realized that he was holding her hand entirely too long, not that she minded. Immediately snatching his hand away, both couldn't look at each other without blushing for a good minute. It was then that Naruto realized that it wasn't just her hand that was small, but Haku in general looked small. Not like a baby, but small as in something that he should cherish and protect something. What am I thinking? She's a Junin-level shinobi. If she was serious, she could kill me without trying. But why is it that I want to protect her so much? Naruto asked himself while watching the girl from behind. He hadn't even realized that they had started walking home, and it wasn't until he was at the door of her apartment did he realize how lost in thought he was. Turning to Haku, Naruto didn't know what to do or say as he had completely lost any of the sense or wit that he prided himself in always having. Opening his mouth to say something, Naruto knew he would probably stick his foot in his mouth, but anything was better than awkward silence. Haku was the one to break the silence though. "Well, sorry for the genjutsu and us all teaming up and paralyzing you. We wouldn't ever hurt you on purpose." Haku's voice became drastically low at the end. Naruto caught the drop in volume and decided to be a man and say something. "Don't worry about me. Hinata-chan and Sakura-chan have done far worse to me before and I'm still breathing. I was just glad you were there to take it off when they left," Naruto said, laughing in spite of himself. His voice had dropped off at the end too and his inner man was berating him. "What's wrong with you? This isn't your first time talking to a girl. Stop acting like she has cooties or something and be a man." Seeing Naruto reverting into his mind shell, as she liked to call it, Haku decided, "This is my only chance," before getting the boy in a pressing hug. Instantly, Naruto forgot all about the loud midget yelling at him to be a man and make a move and instead focused on the warm feeling that was spreading through him like a fire through the forest. The sensation was mind-numbing for both parties and like the first time, Naruto couldn't think straight while Haku's body was pressed up against his. It wasn't like hugging Hinata or the few times he got a hug from Sakura. Even though he was especially happy at the time, Haku's hug was different. Naruto could feel every curve on the older girl's body and it caused him to forget about all his troubles and just want to stay in the now, forever. However, all good things must come to an end and before Naruto knew it, the hug was over and Haku had dashed in the door, not before leaving him a peck on the cheek and the words, Don't go to practice tomorrow, I need to have a word with Zabuza and we should do this again sometime. Those words alone lifted Naruto into the air and carried him through the night. Well, that and the quick kiss she gave him as well. The end. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.